Detective Thompson.
Good morning.
Thank you for being back here again today. There's actually an additional topic regarding this investigation that we want to cover at this time. Did you conduct an interview with Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes, I did.
All right, and when did you conduct that interview?
It was on January 14th, 2010.
Now, what was the purpose of you conducting this interview with Elizabeth Johnson?
The purpose was to determine the whereabouts of Gabriel.
All right. And did she agree to engage in this interview with you?
Yes, she did.
And who was present during that interview?
Present during the interview was myself, Elizabeth, her two attorneys, I forget their names, and then there were also two prosecuting attorneys as well who were present.
Okay. And there's a name to this type of interview, correct?
That is correct.
What is it called?
It's referred to as a free talk.
Okay, and what does a free talk mean?
In essence, basically, it's a situation where an individual, a defendant, is given an opportunity to tell a detective or tell the law enforcement agency, the investigating agency, information about the case against them. Anything that the defendant may say at that time cannot be used against them later on in court.
And so at this point, you had decided that this would be an appropriate tool during this investigation.
That is correct.
Because as of January 14th, 2010, the whereabouts of baby Gabriel were still unknown, correct?
That is correct.
And was Elizabeth Johnson in custody at the time?
Yes, she was.
And there was actually paperwork that was drawn up, an agreement that was reached that she signed previous to speaking to you, correct?
That is correct.
Now, during this conversation, was it recorded?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and where did it take place?
It took place at the 4th Avenue Jail of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
And I'm assuming it was in a conference room of sorts? Some type of interview room?
It was in a larger recreation room that was not being used at the time.
All right. Now, the purpose of this interview was explained to her ahead of time, correct?
Yes, it was.
And her attorneys were present to advise her as well?
Yes, they were.
And at the conclusion of her reading the paperwork, signing the paperwork, did she make statements to you about this case?
Yes, she did.
All right. Now, specifically, did she talk to you about how she met Tammi Smith?
She did.
Okay, and tell us what she said about that.
She described that Elizabeth, after giving birth to Gabriel, he was approximately 6 weeks old at the time. They were in an airport in Indianapolis, and they were waiting for a flight back to Phoenix. The flight was currently delayed. Apparently it had been delayed about 2 hours. And while she's sitting there in the concourse, she notices that there's a woman sitting across the way from her that keeps staring at her and keeps smiling. Elizabeth explained to me that because of the staring, it was making her feel uncomfortable, that she was feeling weird, that this woman kept staring at her. At some point, this woman got up, came over to Elizabeth, introduced herself as Tammi Smith, and they proceeded to talk about their children that they have, and talk about Gabriel. During this period of time, Elizabeth explained that Tammi had told her that Tammi and her husband Jack were looking to adopt a child, and then they just discussed general information about their families. Just prior to getting on the flight, as they were calling everyone for boarding, Tammi handed Elizabeth a note. And Elizabeth said that Tammi instructed her, "Do not open this note until you get on the flight."
And did Elizabeth indicate if she had eventually read that note?
Yes, she did.
Was it during the flight or after the flight?
It was during the flight.
Okay. And what did the note say, according to Elizabeth Johnson?
Elizabeth described to me that it was a very touching note, that it was from Tammi basically explaining that she knows how hard it is to be a young mother in Elizabeth's position, and that Tammi Smith and her husband are there to help, and that they provided their contact information for Elizabeth.
Now, did she indicate whether or not Tammi Smith had any physical contact with Gabriel during this meeting?
Yes, she did. Once on the plane, there was a period of time where Tammi Smith held Gabriel during the flight, and Elizabeth said it gave her an opportunity to use the restroom and just have her lap free for the time. She estimated that Tammi Smith held Gabriel for approximately an hour of this flight.
Okay. Did she indicate during that meeting with Tammi Smith during the flight at the airport whether they discussed the topic of adoption specifically?
May I refer to my report just to refresh my memory?
Yes.
I can't recall independently right now.
Please do so, and let us know when your memory is
Thank you.
refreshed.
Okay. There was a period of time where Tammi Smith had talked with Elizabeth about the fact that Tammi and her husband are looking to adopt, and having the possibility that they could adopt Gabriel.
All right. And did Elizabeth indicate at that time how what she said to Tammi Smith or what she did with Tammi Smith's information?
At that time, Elizabeth didn't describe that there had been any decision made as far as the status of Gabriel and whether he was going to be adopted to them or not. However, Elizabeth did explain to me that at the end of the flight, she did save Tammi Smith's contact information into her phone, into Elizabeth's phone, and she explained that sort of in the back of her mind, she always had an idea that at some point she would be giving Tammi a call.
All right. Now, did you ask her about the note, whether she still had that note or had access to that note?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say?
She stated that if she did have it still, it may be somewhere back in her trailer. She said sometimes she keeps things, sometimes she throws them away. She couldn't recall for certain if she had that note anymore or not.
Okay. Now, did she also, was that pretty much the gist of what she had talked about in reference to meeting Tammi Smith?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, did she talk about her relationship with Logan McQueary?
Yes, she did.
All right. And did she talk about the fact that it was a tumultuous relationship?
Yes.
Now, did she then move on? Well, actually, how long was this entire interview?
I would say the entire interview was approximately 4 hours.
And did she, while discussing with you the events that had transpired, did she talk about them in blocks, totally exhausting one subject at a time, or was it sort of a back and forth type of an interview?
No, it was back and forth.
Okay. All right. So she talked a little bit about one thing, maybe you'd follow up with a question.
That's correct.
Move on to a different topic, maybe go back at
That's
certain
correct.
points. Okay. And that wasn't done for any particular purpose. That's just how the conversation happened?
Correct.
Right. Now, did she talk about the events involving the adoption of Gabriel Johnson to Tammi Smith and her husband?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And did she tell you how that came back up again?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And can you please tell us about that?
She explained that in early December, there was a period of time that Logan had left, and she didn't know where Logan had gone to. It had been over 2 days that he had not, I don't know if it's correct to say been home or where she's been able to have contact with him, but basically for 2 days, she's stating she didn't know where Logan was. And at that time, she decided, I'm going to now give Tammi Smith a call and see if they're still interested in adopting Gabriel.
Now, did she indicate that happened after an incident that occurred at his work? That she had gone to his work to talk to him?
There were a couple of incidents during that period of time between the flight and that period of time in December. I can't recall specifically if there was if it was at work or where a confrontation occurred.
Okay. But did she? Oh, well, let's clarify that a little bit. Did she talk about a time when her brother said something about Logan cheating on her, and she got upset and vandalized their apartment?
Yes, she did.
All right. And then did she talk about a separate time where she went to his work and an argument occurred there and the police were called?
Yes, she did.
All right. Now, she also told you about Logan leaving and her not knowing where he was for a couple days, and what steps did she take next?
At that point, that's when she called Tammi Smith and asked her if she was still interested in adopting Gabriel.
And what happened then?
At that point, Elizabeth explained that Tammi Smith was very excited, that she said, yes, we are still interested in adopting Gabriel. And at that point, Elizabeth explained that she started receiving counseling from Tammi in regards to the court process, how to go about filing for full custody of Gabriel.
And in fact, did she talk to you about when she eventually gave Gabriel to the Smiths?
Yes, she did.
And was there paperwork that she signed, a guardianship paperwork, to the Smiths?
Yes, there was.
Did she indicate what Tammi Smith said to her at that point regarding the adoption?
She indicated that with her having full custody, that then she would be able to choose the disposition of Gabriel.
Right. And did she tell her she'd give her a few days and then draw up some adoption papers?
Yes, she did.
All right. And this is Tammi Smith telling Elizabeth Johnson this?
That is correct. At this point, they just had papers for guardianship. They said they were going to give her a few days to think about if this is something that she really wanted. And then at that time, they would have their attorney draw up adoption paperwork.
All right. And then did she talk about the point in time where she was made aware that Logan McQueary had filed for his rights?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And did she indicate that Tammi Smith was aware of that?
Yes.
And in fact, did she indicate that Tammi Smith and her talked about what was going to happen next?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She described how Tammi Smith started providing her counseling as to what to do to go about getting full custody for Gabriel. Tammi Smith started providing her transportation to the courthouse. Tammi Smith started paying for any filing fees for any paperwork that is needed on Elizabeth's behalf. Elizabeth and Tammi were talking about filling out the paperwork. During this discussion, Elizabeth stated that Tammi had instructed her to put down the name of another individual as being the father of Gabriel in order to force Logan into having to take a paternity test. And Elizabeth said that Tammi Smith told her, put down the name of my cousin, Craig Cherry, and that here's his phone number, and that if the courts ever call him and ask about this, Craig will say that he did have sex with you, and that it was during the period of time that it's believed Gabriel was conceived.
And was Elizabeth indicating some disbelief that somebody would actually say that?
She was also, there was another situation where Tammi had suggested that Elizabeth put on petition paperwork that Logan McQueary is a drug abuser, and that Logan McQueary was a physical abuser, like spousal abuse. And there was one point that Elizabeth exclaimed to me that she just didn't feel that portion right there in regards to the spousal abuse was right.
Right. In fact, did she say something like that was too much?
That's correct.
She wasn't going to do that?
That's correct.
Accuse Logan of abusing her?
That's correct.
All right. Now, did she indicate that Tammi Smith provided an additional plan of how this was all going to work?
There was a plan that was thought up in regards to Tammi suggesting something that Elizabeth called sort of an adult adoption, where Tammi would go about adopting Elizabeth as an adult, and thereby being able to have a little bit more legal authority in terms of Gabriel. That was one thing that had been discussed between them.
And did she also talk about making Logan jump through hoops?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Elizabeth explained that Tammi was talking about all these different things: the paternity test, the claim that there's another father, the claim that Logan is a drug abuser, and that that would force the court to make him have to take a drug test. All of these things Tammi was explaining was in effort to make it difficult for Logan to get through this process. It would require additional filing fees and different things on his behalf to counteract this, and that at some point it was Elizabeth said that it was Tammy's hope that him having to jump through all these hoops, Logan would finally give up and relinquish his rights as the father and walk away, thereby giving Elizabeth 100% rights to Gabriel.
Now, did she indicate that there came a time where it became apparent that this was going to be very difficult to do?
Yes, she did.
Okay, and what did she do at that point?
Elizabeth described to me that she, when she feels trapped, when she feels pressured, she flees. And she stated that the pressure that was being applied to her by Logan, as well as the pressure being applied to her by Tammi and Jack Smith in regard to Gabriel, was too much for her. And so she admitted that she fled, that she tried to escape this problem by fleeing the state with Gabriel.
And did she indicate at that time that it was her decision to go to San Antonio?
Yes, she did.
And did she talk to you a little bit about what she did when she got to San Antonio?
She stated that when she got there, she had to decide whether to seek a shelter or whether to find a motel. She was able to find a motel that had a cheap weekly rate, and so she opted to stay there. And once staying at this motel, she started looking for jobs. It was her intention to make San Antonio her home and to raise Gabriel there. She stated that she started looking for jobs. She was able to obtain the services of a babysitter to watch Gabriel for several hours while she went out to do errands and do a job search.
Did she indicate that she had some funds before she went there?
Yes, she did.
And that but it was about $2,000 she said she had?
That's correct.
Okay, and that she was using those to sustain her trip there?
That's correct.
Okay. Did there come a point where that changed for her intention of being in San Antonio?
Yes.
Okay, and did she describe to you the circumstances behind that?
Yes, she did.
What did she tell you?
Several days after being in San Antonio, she received an email from Tammi. And the email said something to the extent of, "Please call me, it's important." I believe too much to say over text or too much to say over email. Elizabeth said that she called Tammi, and at this point, Tammi had explained to her that Logan had spoken with Tammi and explained to Tammi that if Gabriel is not returned, that Elizabeth is going to be charged with kidnapping, and that there was going to be an Amber Alert put out for her, and that the vehicle that Elizabeth was driving, her grandfather's vehicle, was going to be reported stolen.
And just so we're clear, Tammi Smith was relaying this information to her, not Logan McQueary.
That's correct.
All right. Tammi Smith was saying, Logan told me these things, and she was passing it on to Elizabeth Johnson?
That's correct.
All right. Did she tell you that she had taken an old cell phone with her on this trip?
She did.
Okay. And did she tell you that it wasn't activated until she got to San Antonio?
That's correct.
Okay. And at that point, that's when she got the San Antonio phone number?
Yes.
All right. After she heard that information, what did she tell you then?
At this point, there was discussion between Elizabeth and Tammi as to what Elizabeth's options are. Elizabeth was stating that she was scared, and that Tammi and Jack at this point were saying, hang in there, we're here to help you. And they did provide her with a couple of different options.
And what were those options?
One option that they suggested was for Elizabeth to drive with Gabriel up to Nashville. They explained to her that they had a condo that was in the downtown Nashville area that was available for her to have. And this, that she could park the car in the garage of this condo and sort of lay low at this condominium for a period of time until things were able to settle down and things were able to be remedied back in Arizona in regards to the custody dispute.
Now, was there a reason why, was the car a concern to Elizabeth at that point?
It was.
Why?
Elizabeth was concerned that this vehicle was now reported stolen, and she didn't want to be stopped in a stolen car.
All right, and it was actually her grandfather's car, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so did she indicate whether or not she actually went to Nashville?
She stated that she did not go to Nashville.
Okay.
She had a GPS unit with her, and she used this GPS unit to look up the distance between San Antonio and Nashville and decided that it was too far to drive. But she did admit looking up a general address in the Nashville area.
All right. Did she indicate that she also was provided information for an attorney in the area of Nashville, Tennessee?
Yes, she did.
Who gave her that information?
Tammi Smith told Elizabeth that she has a good friend in the Nashville area. Tammi also described that her mentors are in the Nashville area, and that they were people that helped Tammi get back on her feet when she was having other concerns. And so Tammi suggested that Elizabeth contact this attorney in the Nashville area, and that there are other options available. Tammi explained that she knows of an attorney in Tennessee that would be able to produce a birth certificate. And what that attorney would be able to do is that attorney would affirm that the birth of Gabriel was an at-home birth in Tennessee, and that's why there are no hospital records. And the date of birth would be changed just enough, so close enough, but just enough so that it wouldn't match to Gabriel's actual birth date, but yet there would never be any eyebrows raised if they needed to take the baby to the pediatrician.
So making them look making it so that it's not his actual birthday, but not so far off that there would be a discrepancy between his physical appearance and his birth date.
Correct.
Did she also talk to her about an abandonment period in Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Tell us about that.
Tammy described to Elizabeth that what they could do is also wait out an abandonment period. And during that period of time, what was described to Elizabeth is they could take out an ad in the classified section of the paper, in the public notices section. And what they would do is they would put an ad in that paper indicating that they are in search of the father of, and then listed the child's name. There would be a responsibility for them to do that for a period of either 60 or 90 days, and upon no response by the father, then the legal requirements would have been met for them to have done their due diligence in attempting to locate the father of this child. And then Elizabeth explained that Tammy remarked to her, nobody ever checks those notices, nobody ever reads the public notices section of a newspaper, and that's how we got the custody of our first child.
And referring to the child that they currently had adopted
That's
at
correct.
that time. Did Elizabeth state whether or not she indicated that she was willing to take part in this to Tammi Smith?
At this point, Elizabeth had made contact with an attorney in Tennessee, and she had talked with an attorney there, or at least what Elizabeth believed was an attorney. And Elizabeth stated the attorney had told her she needs to return to Arizona.
Okay. And did Elizabeth state that the attorney explained to her the seriousness of the situation she was in?
That's correct.
Okay, and what did she state the attorney told her?
The attorney told her that if she does not make an appearance for the next scheduled court date, that she could be facing some very serious charges, and that she needs to return to Arizona. Elizabeth described that she was scared at this point, and all she wanted to do at this point was to walk away.
Now, she indicated
Let me stop you right there because we're at our lunch hour. So we're going to go ahead and take our lunch break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch break. We'll be back at 1:30. Until then, remember the admonition, and we'll see you in about an hour and a half.
All right.
Okay, please be seated, everyone. We're outside the presence of the jury. Anybody have anything that they need to talk about before?
Judge, I was apparently just given I didn't realize there was a video. I thought we only had audio of this. If it's all right, I'd like to just kind of compare time stamps. If I could just sit in the courtroom and work over the lunch hour, that'd be great.
Talk to Kim. I don't philosophically have a problem with that, but we worry about leaving people in the courtroom, but I'm okay. Generally, we'll be staying here and working if you need to work.
Your Honor, just for the record, Detective Thompson did graciously offer to redact the interview that was conducted for us last night. So he did provide, as we were walking into the courtroom, because I was questioning the previous witness, thumb drives containing a copy of it's an audio recording.
Oh, is it audio?
Yes.
It's audio, then never mind.
It's
I thought it was video. Never mind.
But I have not had an opportunity to review it.
It's a redacted audio.
It's a redacted audio, correct.
So the defense needs to obviously listen to it. You're not, as I understand it, until the defense had a chance to review it, you weren't essentially going to necessarily move it into evidence yet until you had a chance to review it, but you're laying the foundation so you can do it at a later time.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's fine. I certainly can listen to 4 hours over the lunch hour.
You should be able to do that, right?
Well, my powers to bend time are limited.
Just turn up the speed. That's all you need to do.
It's tough.
Okay. so you'll look at that. Presumably, we won't be in a position until likely tomorrow before that could be admitted, so you would have time to look at it anyway, but we're laying the foundation, and he can obviously answer questions about what was said.
And Your Honor, since we're on the topic of redacted recordings, I don't know if we're going to get to any redacted recordings today, but if we do, ordinarily in a case where we have redacted recordings, we usually ask the court to advise the jury that you may be hearing some recordings, there may be some information that's redacted for legal reasons. You should place no importance on what you haven't heard or some sort of instruction like that. There have been a couple of, when Detective Ramirez testifies, there will be some recordings that have been redacted. They've been provided to defense counsel. We've talked about the redactions. My understanding is they agree with the redactions that we took out. And so I just think this would, so the jury doesn't wonder where information went.
What I typically do is I explain it to the jury by starting with, this may sound choppy, and the reason it might sound choppy is there might be some redactions. We redact for legal reasons. Don't worry about why it was redacted or what was redacted. Just listen to what is what you're hearing or seeing, and I do it that way. What I need from you is a heads up. If you're about to get to something that's redacted, just say, Your Honor, this is redacted. That'll cue me to tell the jury about the redaction.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, anything from the defense perspective?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Let the record reflect the presence of the defendant and counsel. The jury panel's not here. You rang?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to inform the court, because I don't know how far we'll get today, that we intend to play what's already been admitted into evidence but hasn't been published, the recording in Exhibit Number 8, and we have transcripts for the jury for that.
Okay. All right. And that's the one that we created in 8A and B, I think, or 8.01 or something along those lines?
We actually just replaced 8 with 8.
Okay, so we have a new 8, and I take it you've heard 8 and you're okay with it?
Yes.
And you want to pass out transcripts before you do it? Okay. And that's going to be through Detective Ramirez, you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Any issue with that from the defense perspective?
No.
Okay. All right, thanks for letting me know. I think we're ready to go and get the jury, so let's go ahead and bring him in. Detective Thompson knows he's supposed to come back up, so good. Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. Let the record reflect the presence of the jury panel. Welcome back, everyone. We left off with Detective Thompson's direct examination, so that's where we're going to pick up. So, Ms. Ramuno, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, I believe we left off with Elizabeth Johnson telling you about some of the conversations she had with Tammi Smith during her time in San Antonio.
That is correct.
All right. Now, and I believe you had told us earlier that she hadn't had contact with her for a little bit until she received an email from Tammi Smith.
That's right. The first portion of the time that she was in San Antonio, Elizabeth stated that she did not have contact with Tammi Smith.
And she was also not having contact with Logan McQueary at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, from your conversation with her, she indicated to you it was her intention to stay in San Antonio.
That's right.
And at some point, did that change?
Yes, it did.
And did she explain to you the reasons why that changed?
She did. When Elizabeth had heard from Tammi that Logan was making statements to the effect that Elizabeth was going to be facing kidnapping charges, and that there was going to be an Amber Alert placed against Elizabeth and the vehicle that she's driving in, as well as the vehicle that she's driving being stolen or being reported stolen, that's when Elizabeth realized that she knew staying in San Antonio was no longer an option.
And what did she state what she did then?
At that point, she communicated to Tammi Smith that she wanted to break ties from the situation, that she wanted to leave the situation completely. That's when Elizabeth stated that Tammi Smith told her, let me make some calls and I'll get back to you.
All right. And did Elizabeth indicate whether Tammi Smith did get back to her?
Yes, she did.
And what happened then?
To her recollection, she said that it was approximately the 23rd or the 24th of December, 2009, and that Tammi did get back in touch with her, And at this point, Tammi instructed Elizabeth that there was a couple that Elizabeth was going to meet, that they need to meet in a public place. At first, Tammi inquired of Elizabeth as to whether she knows of any parks nearby or anything like that. But then during that conversation, Elizabeth is describing that she thought she heard Tammi clicking on a computer keyboard during this conversation. And then at one point, Tammi comes up and says, "There's a park nearby your motel where you're staying." And that she instructs Elizabeth to be at this park at a time on a certain day, a couple days later.
And what did Elizabeth tell you happened next?
She stated that a couple days later, she bundles up Gabriel in his carrier. She takes a diaper bag, and she drives with him to this park. When she's at this park, she sees this couple that is sitting on a park bench, as was instructed would be there by Tammi. And Elizabeth approaches this couple, and the couple says, "Hi, are you Elizabeth? We're Tammy's friends."
And what happened then, according to Elizabeth?
At that point, Elizabeth described handing over Gabriel to this couple and saying goodbye to him and then walking away.
Now, did you ask her some follow-up questions about this transaction in the park?
I did.
All right. And was Elizabeth able to give you details any further about the couple, about where the park was, any information like that?
No, she was not.
Did she indicate how she got to that park?
She indicated that she had driven there in her grandfather's vehicle. When asked specifically what direction she had taken, if she remembered any certain turns, anything like that, she recalled very general directions, but nothing that could assist us in pinpointing what park we should be looking at.
Did she address the issue of having any further contact with family or Tammi Smith at that time?
She did. During the period of time that they were setting up this meeting where Elizabeth would give Gabriel to this unknown couple, Tammi had asked Elizabeth, "Are you willing to never have contact with us, never have contact with Gabriel, never have contact with your grandfather again?" Because if this goes through, that's what may be needed. And Elizabeth stated that she was willing to do so.
Did she tell you what day it was that she gave Gabriel to this couple?
She did. During the interview, she had initially alluded that it was Saturday, which I believe would have been December 26th, 2009. Later on during the interview, she clarified and said that she now believed that it was Sunday, the 27th of December, which would be the same day that she got the bus at the Tornado Bus Depot.
In Texas?
That's correct.
In the San Antonio area?
That's correct.
Now, was there follow-up done on parks in the San Antonio area?
Yes, there were.
And what kind of follow-up was done?
FBI agents went out to all parks in the area near the motels, looking at the different parks, taking photographs of the different parks to try to determine if there is anything from the photographs of the parks that matched the description that was given to me by Elizabeth. Anything that we could link to at least show that maybe one park versus another may be more central to our investigation. There was nothing that was revealed during those photographs or during that follow-up.
And has there been any further evidence regarding this alleged couple that the baby was given to?
No, there is not.
Now, you indicated that she said she gave the baby to this couple and then she left on the bus. Did she describe to you her reasons for leaving on the bus?
She stated that she realized she could no longer stay in San Antonio. That she felt that she was going to go to jail, that she was facing serious charges, that her grandfather's car was now reported stolen, and that now that she didn't have Gabriel, that she was going to disappear. And she had chosen to go to the Miami area.
Okay. Did she indicate that anyone else had anything to do with her decision to go to Miami?
No, she did not.
That was her decision alone?
That's correct.
Did she explain to you the reasons for selecting Miami specifically?
She said she liked the weather. She liked the warmer climate as opposed to the colder weather regions up north, and she liked larger cities. And she also stated that she had visited Miami in the past with her grandmother, and so she has some familiarity with Miami.
Okay. And did she indicate that once she left, once she states she gave baby Gabriel to a couple in the park, did she indicate whether she had any more contact with Tammi Smith at that point?
No, at that point, I don't believe there was any other contact between her and Tammi Smith for the next several days.
According to what she told you.
That's correct.
Now, Detective, there's been information previously admitted in this case about Elizabeth Johnson sending text messages to Logan McQueary that she had in fact killed Gabriel Johnson.
Yes.
And did you ask her about that?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
She described to me, she admitted to sending those messages. She said that she did those because she wanted to make Logan upset and make him wonder about Gabriel. She said that she was upset at him, that she felt she had been cornered. And she wanted, just trying to collect my thoughts, excuse me. She was upset that she had given Gabriel away, the way she described it, not on her terms. And that's what she was upset about. And that as a result of this, that's why she wanted to send those messages to Logan to cause him upset.
And did she indicate that she had in fact received text messages from Tammi Smith about a detective being at her house?
Yes, she did.
And did she have further information to give you about that?
She did. She did say that during this day she had received a text message from Tammi that detectives were now inquiring about the whereabouts of not only her but also Gabriel. And Elizabeth interpreted this as being a cue, Q-U-E, from Tammi, sort of letting Elizabeth know, hey, by the way, detectives are now investigating this incident, sort of to give Elizabeth an update as to what's going on in Arizona without sending anything further.
Did she state, other than the time you mentioned earlier, other than the time that was mentioned earlier about them not having any further communication, did she give reasons for that?
She indicated that she was instructed not to have any further contact with Tammi, not to have any further contact with her grandfather. And she was afraid at some point that she would be able to be traced. That she would be able to be located. And Elizabeth did not want to be located.
At some point during this conversation, did she also address with you conversations she had with Tammi Smith once she was arrested and in custody?
Yes, she did.
Okay, and tell us about that.
Elizabeth did state that there was one occasion that Tammi came to visit her in the jail, and I asked her about that. I asked her if there was any discussion between them regarding Gabriel or this couple in the park or his welfare or anything like that. Elizabeth told me that they did not discuss anything like that during their in-person interview. And when I inquired why they didn't discuss anything like that, Elizabeth stated that it was her belief that the jail was being monitored with audio by authorities, by investigators at that time, and that she had been provided that information or that possibility by her attorneys.
So she was cognizant of the fact that conversations in the jail could be recorded.
That's correct. And I believe Elizabeth stated that to her knowledge, or what she stated to me, both she and Tammy felt that the conversations in the jail could be recorded.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for
Speculation. Move to strike that last part about Tammy.
Overruled.
Now, there were some things after having this conversation with her that you wanted to get into a little bit more, correct? That you could not confront her, but you asked her direct questions about.
That is correct.
Okay, and you wanted to get information about where the baby was.
Absolutely.
And you weren't getting that at that point, were you?
No, I was not.
All right. In fact, there was a team of FBI agents standing.
objection leading, Your Honor.
Let her finish the question, then object.
Thank you.
I'll rephrase the question. What would have happened if she had given information about the whereabouts of Gabriel Johnson?
The purpose of this free talk was to find the whereabouts of Gabriel, to make sure that he was safe. We had a team of FBI agents that were in San Antonio that were waiting for the phone call from me during this interview to give them solid information that they could follow up on in order to go out and get Gabriel. We had people, in essence, waiting on this situation to find out where he was so that they could go out and get him.
And were you able to do that at the conclusion of this interview with her?
I was not.
Right. Now, just so we're clear, the interview with Elizabeth Johnson, is that something that you asked her to do? Did she volunteer to do it, or something different?
We were approached by her and her attorneys. And so it was something that they volunteered to us. It was not something that, to my understanding, we offered to them.
Right. And the agreement that was entered into with her actually contained a potential plea agreement.
That is my understanding.
Okay, so she had been arrested and charged with crimes, correct?
Correct.
And she had the opportunity to engage in this interview, and if she had given information leading to the whereabouts of the child, she would have been given a plea offer in exchange, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
All right. And that obviously didn't happen because, why?
Because she gave us no actionable information during this interview.
At least regarding the whereabouts of Gabriel Johnson.
Correct, the whereabouts of Gabriel.
And she actually, Detective, regarding the couple in San Antonio, had she given inconsistent statements regarding this transaction?
She did.
Okay. The only statements you're aware of, though, for the purposes of this case, are the ones made during this conversation with you, correct?
Correct.
Now, you indicated that you had recorded this interview, correct?
Yes, I have.
And that has been actually downloaded onto a flash drive?
Yes.
And you did that yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and there are portions on that flash drive that are taken out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, some of it's dead airspace,
Yes.
and then that's on the actual recording, correct?
That's correct.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you Exhibit 227. Do you recognize this envelope?
I do.
And what is that?
This is an envelope that I placed one of the flash drives in, that contained the flash drive.
And the flash drive right now is actually in my computer, correct?
That is correct.
We tested it out before the jury came back in the courtroom this afternoon.
That's correct.
And that's the flash drive that you created?
Yes, it is.
With those redactions on it?
That's correct.
Your Honor, the state will move to enter into evidence at this time Exhibit 227.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 227 is admitted.
Permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Is this the interview?
We're here to play all 4 hours.
No, Your Honor. I would actually like to play 10 minutes segment?
Have you listened to that segment?
No, I have not, Judge.
Okay, until defense counsel's had a chance to listen to that segment, we're not going to play it. I know.
I want to object to that. I've got segments I want to play. And if they want to play the 10 minutes, let's let them play it as long as we can go through the little portions that I want to play on cross.
Well, two things. One's not dependent on the other. So either you do object or you don't object to them. And I'm hearing you not object. I will tell you that right now I don't see any reason why I wouldn't let you play portions. But let's keep it to the proposal here, which is to play a 10-minute portion. Any objection to that 10-minute portion?
I can give the
You can
times.
just give me a brief summary of what it is.
It
Well,
is-
you know,
It's the beginning of the interview, and it will be specifically from about 10 minutes in the interview to about 20 minutes into the interview.
Okay, that's fine.
So there's no objection. You can publish it to the jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Detective, the segment we're about to play, I've indicated that we're going to start it in about 10 minutes in. What is in that first 10 minutes?
The first 10 minutes are primarily Elizabeth's attorneys reviewing the free talk agreement with her, making sure that she doesn't have any questions of them. And then there's a several-minute portion where I'm introducing myself to Elizabeth and explaining to her. My goal is, in the initial start here, rather than starting with a chronological step-by-step series of this entire event, let's get to the information that will help us safely recover Gabriel. And so I'm asking her, let's skip forward to that information, and then later on maybe we can come back and address some other stuff after I have a chance to step out of the room and make contact with the authorities in Texas that are waiting for my call.
And once she starts talking, there's about a 10-minute period where she's talking continuously, correct?
That's correct.
And giving her statement to you.
That's correct.
And then at the end of that 10-minute segment, you come in and begin asking her questions.
That's
correct?
right.
So this first 10 minutes is just her free narrative about what's happening?
I believe it's almost all free narrative from her, yes.
And where the point I'm about to start at, is her attorney talking at this point?
I believe it's her attorney just giving some final guidance. And so that would be the female voice that you hear.
And just for the record, we are beginning to play this at 9 minutes and 49 seconds in. 9 minutes and 49 seconds.
Jump to the stuff that you didn't tell the FBI about San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Like I would start there, and then other things that maybe Tammi talked about, and different things that may have happened either before or after. I would talk about that second.
So why don't we start with you driving to San Antonio and what hotel you go to?
Okay, me leaving Arizona, that was my decision and my decision alone. The whole time, Tammi and Jack wanted to adopt the baby, and I didn't think it was going to be possible because it was in Arizona and nobody knew who they were already, so I decided for some crazy reason I'd go to San Antonio and figure it out, try to do it on my own, and after a couple days of being there, I received an email from Tammi wanting to know what's going on. No, not what's going on. Saying I need to know what's going on. There's stuff going on in Arizona, court stuff that's very, very important. I need to know. And so I emailed her back what, and she said it's too much to explain. You need to call me. So I call her and I know what's going on, and she told me that Logan is saying that I kidnapped the baby, and he's threatening to do Amber Alerts. He's going to my family. He's gone to them. Not gone to them. He called them and is threatening to do all that. And at that point, she's offering help for me to still try to hit the baby and come live with her, and offer me her lawyer to because there's a court date. Apparently, I wasn't aware of this court date that I was supposed to go to. I don't know why I needed to go to that date. I guess because he said I left the state. I was kidnapping. When I told him beforehand I was leaving the state, and he knew where I was. He had my cell phone number, and
it just seemed like I just freaked out, and I feel like I was being trapped. And I think Tammi picked up on that, and then she was like, well, if you don't want to come back, there's those options. We're going to help you no matter what you decide to do. And then both of them were getting on the phone off and on together, and Jack says, well, this is going to be a legal problem, but whatever you decide to do, we're going to help you through it. If you want to come back, we'll help you get through it, here. And they were so confident I was going to win and everything, and I just didn't want to face Logan. I didn't want to face my problems, and I didn't want to go to court, even though they were very confident with how everything was going to turn out. And so they say, okay, well, this is your other option. You can go to Tennessee. I have Jack has family there, and plus she said she used to live there. She has connections there. She has an attorney there. She has an adoption attorney there, and she had me, I think, call that lady as well, and her lawyer, to see if the kidnapping charges were real, because I still wasn't sure if he could really do that to me. And I talked to them, and they both scared me and saying, you're going to go to jail for a very long time for kidnapping. And so I basically was afraid to come back to Arizona, and they understood that, and they said, what are you going to do, baby? We can, help you come here. We have a condo, or if a family member or something has a condo that we can ask to rent out for a very, low amount of money. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to drive there with a stolen car. At this point, I'm thinking the car's reported stolen, and Jack is saying that he's going to drive down there. Well, he'll hide the car in a garage in Tennessee. And then he said, well, I was like, well, it's my grandfather's car. I kind of wanted, to get back to him somehow. And he said, well, I'll fly down there and I'll drive it back. And I thought that was kind of like a big thing to do. And I was thankful, and, I was like, wow, those people are really nice. They're willing to do all this for me and help me and get my grandfather's car back to him. And then she was saying how she had mentors in Tennessee that were going to help women in my situation get back on their feet. And, and she suggested that maybe I go to a shelter there, a woman's shelter, saying I was being beat or something, and I could go that route as well. And and then she said she was getting excited because she's like, wow, I'm actually going to get the baby, and we might actually get this to work out somehow with, and I was like, how are you going to be able to adopt a baby? And she said that her adoption lawyer in Tennessee could get a birth certificate saying she gave birth to the baby. She said she had 30 days to be able to turn that in, say it was a home birth, and that no one would know the couple months difference, and in a few years no one would know what the baby would look like. And it sounded like a plan that made sense to me, but I was still weary about I didn't want to drive to Tennessee. I didn't, because that was the plan, and I didn't want to, and caught a stolen vehicle. I was still worried about all of it, and it didn't really, make sense. And then she's like, well, we have friends actually in San Antonio. It's so weird that you went there. And actually Jack in particular has great friends, really good friends there, and you could go there and stay with them, and they could, until we figure out, what we're going to do with the baby, and you could stay with them, and they'll help you out. And I was like, I don't know. So this is all being talked through on, I believe, Tuesday. I don't know the date exactly, but I believe it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday the week that I'm in the hotel in San Antonio that this conversation is taking place. And I guess she's planning, and Jack is getting on the phone, and he's putting his 2 cents in, and I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. I guess she's going to make phone calls or whatever, and talk to her friend in Tennessee, or decide what was. I'm still thinking. Well, I'm still going to think about what I'm going to do. I'm still, I don't know if that's what I want to do yet. So the next day rolls around. I guess it's Wednesday. I don't know the date. It's in the middle of the week. I'm in the hotel still deciding what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if that's Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, but Tammi is constantly calling me and just, trying to, I guess, get me to do what she wants. She's saying, well, we could adopt you, and then we could have grandparent rights, and she's just one crazy plan after another. And I was like, I don't know. This just sounds a little crazy to me. And she was like, well, we can, and then that's when she came up with the plan that of handing the baby to her friends in San Antonio. And I just wanted to get away, and I didn't want to be a part of living with them, or I just wanted to go my separate ways. And she was like, "Are you sure? We care about you too." And I was like, "No, I just want to disappear." And I decided on myself to go to Florida and just disappear. Basically, was my plan, and just start my life over. And I knew I couldn't do that with the baby, and I wouldn't be able to. I could get a job, but I couldn't, go to doctors with the baby and get the baby, health insurance and all that without a social security number. I knew they would be looking for me, and Tammi said she had ways to go about that. You mentioned other ways in Arizona as well before when we were trying to do the adoption about I guess she said she wanted to put an ad in the newspaper for 60 days, and if that did not, if Logan did not come forward to claim the baby through the newspaper article, then she would have the baby just like that. And I thought it was like, really? Just like that? That seems a little crazy. I mean, and she said, no, we've done it before. I think she told me that's how she did it to her 3-year-old. She did it like that, with the father didn't want to sign the rights away with her 3-year-old, and that's how she got her 3-year-old was the same way. She said that's how she did, and she was so confident in that. And I was, and then she kept, when Logan started me with the papers, she was one who told me to say that it wasn't his and to give names. I was like, what do you mean give names of other fathers? And she's like, well, I can give you some names to put and phone numbers, and they'll corroborate the story and say that, they were with you during this time and had sex with you. And I was like, they would really do that? And she was like, yeah, they don't care. And I was like, okay. So she gave me the names of, I guess it ended up being her cousin, Craig Cherry, and I put that down on the paper saying that he was the father, and his phone number she gave me. And I guess that was one way that she was hoping that she would get the baby that way. If Logan didn't get a DNA test, she kept saying that he would have to jump through hoops. He would have to jump through hoops to get the baby in Arizona. That's what she kept making me believe. And it was just getting too stressful, her story. That's why I left. Part of her and Logan, all of her things that she was telling me to do, and saying that, she was just so confident. And I talked to her lawyer as well, and I was like, are you sure? Maybe I should talk to a lawyer. And she gave me her lawyer's, I think his name was Ken Shute or something. She gave me his number, and I called him, and he said yes, basically everything she said. And it would be a process. It would take probably a couple months, but yes, they would be able to adopt the baby because they would be able to prove that they could be parents, and that, Logan wouldn't be able to prove that because that's what they said. But anyway, there was no way I was made when I freaked out and left just to get away and enjoy my baby by myself, without all these people in my ear telling me what I should do. And I was just, basically, I just, thought she was a great person, and I trusted her, and I believed in her, and I thought they were just really good people. And I just felt like she got me in all this trouble, and she gave me illegal information that everyone's telling me is illegal, and I thought it was legal. Everything she was doing is weird. She'd done it before with her daughter. That's what she kept saying. She did it before, and she was just very confident in herself. So I guess I fed off her confidence, and I just fed off her energy, and just her, just kind of, she tried to relate to me, and, just trying to, be nice to me and take my side, I guess, because I guess I felt very alone and scared. And so, that's, I don't know, I'm starting to ramble. What should I talk about?
And just for the record, that the recording's been stopped at 20 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, Detective, at this point, is this where direct questions or more specific topics start to be covered?
That's correct. That's when I start interjecting myself and asking her specific questions.
Okay. And was there some point during this conversation with her that Elizabeth also told you that Tammi Smith indicated I'm sorry, I lost my place, that she should ask for back child support from Logan McQueary?
That's correct. That during their initial court paperwork when she was still here in Arizona, before she had left for San Antonio, that in addition to claiming that there was a different father, and in addition to claiming that Logan McQueary was a drug addict, that she should also file paperwork for failure to pay back child support, or file paperwork for back child support as an additional hurdle.
And was that to cause additional stress to Logan McQueary?
That's correct. That's what was communicated to me, yes.
I have no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Lee?
Judge, it's going to take me just a bit to get set up.
Okay. What's just a bit mean?
I got to move my computer up there, and I have no idea how long that'll take, but probably not long.
All right. I'm confident you can do it quickly.
Yeah.
Mr. Lee, I think you told me that you're planning on playing some portions of the interview, correct?
I am, Judge.
Okay, so you want us to make sure that that gets out over the court system, I take it?
does. I do need that. It'll make a loud noise, but maybe if I can just get everything plugged in first, and then we can turn it on.
That's a good idea.
Go. Quite frankly, I don't trust the battery, but it has been plugged in all day. Don't turn it on just yet. It kind of plays automatically. All right, you can turn it on. All right, officer, detective. Sorry, you or somebody at your office or the county attorney's office heard from Elizabeth Johnson's attorneys, right? Okay. And her attorneys presumably had been down to see her, right? And talked to her at the jail. And they had a conversation with her and came to at least somebody in law enforcement about a possible deal, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you guys wanted to cut a deal because you wanted to find Gabriel, right?
Correct. That was our absolute goal, finding Gabriel.
All right. So, is that me?
No.
Apparently.
It is. We cut it off the lectern, but understand that that could happen again when you get...
Is it this? Hold on. I was trying not to knock microphones over. Okay.
It sounds like you fixed it.
I think I did. It was just sitting on top of the microphone. I apologize.
Okay.
Now I forgot what I was asking you about. All right. So you heard from them, and you went down and you did an interview with Elizabeth Johnson, right?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, do you mind if I pull this out? And it just occurred to me. Is this good to go? Does anybody know when I pitch this up? There we go. All right. If we could just get that fired up, that'd be great. Get down in here and find one of the items that was in here earlier. You know what Elizabeth Johnson looks like?
I do.
Let me see. There's a nice picture of her. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
And I take it you want us to put it up on the screen?
I do. It's not something I'm going to ask to be entered into evidence, but I just... All right. Okay, this is not something I want to enter into evidence. evidence. We'll show the jury. Okay. You see Elizabeth Johnson in that picture?
I do.
Do you see anybody else?
I see Logan McQueary, and I
who
see
else?
Gabriel.
Gabriel, okay. I hope this is going to work. I'm hoping the glare is not...
Okay, hang on. You got to wait for it to now warm up.
All right, well, I'll think of... Well... All right.
It's going to take probably another minute or so.
Well, let's ask some other questions. We can move
Good.
on. All right, so you went down there, and where did you meet her at? Where's the physical location?
It was at the 4th Avenue Jail.
4th Avenue. It's not far from here, is it?
It is not. It's just across the street.
Just across the street, the 4th Avenue Jail, and that's because she'd been arrested,
That's correct.
right? And she'd been arrested not here in Arizona.
That's correct.
She'd been arrested in Florida.
Yes.
She went to Florida because she wanted to get away from her problems.
That's what she told me, yes.
Some of her problems might be legal, right?
That's a possibility.
Okay. Some of her problems might include, maybe a missing baby.
Yes.
Okay. Are we good to go, or is that all we know? Okay. We got me up there? No, we don't have me up there. All right. I think we got it? All right. And this thing does autofocus, I hope. If not, I'm not going to know how to do it. All right, there we go. Hold on. Let me flip it so we can see it. All right. All right. Can you see the picture up there?
I do.
Was that the picture I just showed you?
Yes, it is.
And can I just assume that the one with blonde hair is Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes, the
Okay,
female
that's a good
was
assumption.
Elizabeth Johnson.
It's a pretty girl, right?
Looks like a nice family.
Yeah. Looks like a nice family, but it's not, is it?
There's information to the contrary, absolutely.
There is information to the contrary. You get a lot of information about Elizabeth Johnson. Painted kind of a rosy story here of her when you were talking with the state. Seemed like a nice girl when you were talking with the state. Now, you remember talking to Miss Phillips? You remember doing an interview with her?
I do recall doing an interview. I don't recall the specifics.
All right. Let's talk about one and see if I can jog your memory a little bit.
Okay.
Remember talking to her about something that Elizabeth Johnson called Gabriel that bothered you?
Yes.
Why don't you tell the jury what that was?
She referred to Gabriel as the baby.
Remember him referring to him as it several times?
I do.
Okay. So, she referred to her child, right?
Yes.
Is it. Now, it we don't typically use to refer to people by it. Is that fair to say?
She didn't refer to him as Gabriel that I heard.
In your general knowledge of the English language and your use of it, we typically don't use the word it to refer to people, correct?
That's something that stood out to me.
And it stood out to you because we use the word it to refer to things, right?
That's a possibility, absolutely.
In fact, probably most people wouldn't call their dog it, would they?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Now, we talked a little bit about, and I'm going to cover a little bit of ground that you guys covered, but I'll be as brief as I can. This is 10:36 to 10:09.
You're going to play that?
I'm going to play that.
10:36 to 10:09.
Yes, 10:36, 10 minutes and 36 seconds to 10 minutes, 10 minutes and 9 seconds. I got it back. My dyslexia is kicking in. 10 minutes and 9 seconds to 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you give me, it's not an exact science with this. I've got to kind of drag this thing until I get. Okay, I'm close. All right, here we go.
Okay, so why don't we start with you driving to San Antonio and what hotel you go to?
Okay, me leaving Arizona, that was my decision and my decision alone. The whole time, Tammi and Jack wanted to adopt the baby, and I didn't think it was going to be possible because it was in Arizona and Logan knew who they were already, so I decided for some crazy reason I'd go to San Antonio and figure it out, try to do it on my
I know we heard that already. I thought it was important to emphasize it. She told you that was not Tammy's decision to go to San Antonio, right?
And that's correct.
She told you it was not her husband Jack's decision to go to San Antonio. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
And it was for what reason? Some crazy reason, right? And she decided to go to San Antonio.
That's what she said, yes.
She said there. Now, let's look at a little further. And again, this is going to be at 46 minutes, 21 seconds to 46 minutes, 27 seconds. And I'd be happy to not repeat all this unless everybody wants it, but here we go. You got to give me a minute. This is, like I said, I got to drag this little bar along until I get there.
Tell us that again, I think.
It's 46:21 to 46:27.
6 seconds?
Yeah, it's about 6 seconds. Did you ever hear Tammy reference San Antonio? Let me just give it a second. I can't even remember my own. Sorry, this jumps. I'm starting a little sooner than that, but only because I have to. Okay, here we go.
So you just went out in the desert?
Yeah, that's what I always do. Did you ever hear Tammy reference San Antonio or anything?
No, never. It was completely my idea. But she was like, "What quit."
Okay, that's a little more. Now, you talked about part of this, but she said she never heard Tammy reference San Antonio.
That's right.
That's what she told you.
Yes.
Now, let's look about the trip, how she got there. And Judge, this is how she got to San Antonio. This is 47 minutes, 17 seconds to 47 minutes, 58 seconds. And again, I may start a little sooner because it's kind of hard to get it exactly right. All right, hold on. All right, it's going to start a little sooner, but
I would know where I was going. If I got lost, it would tell me how to get back on the highway, and that was all you really needed.
So with the GPS, how did you just punch in? Okay, San Antonio. Go,
yeah, the city, and then it said street, and I made up a street. I don't know, 5th or 10th or some common street that's in any place, and so it would take me to the general direction. And then when I see a hotel that I like in that city, I would stop. But I didn't have an address that I made up an address that would take me to the city of San Antonio.
And so you just punched in at random?
Yeah, my family was, there would be a motel, hotel, or one, and then.
all right, so she got to San Antonio by punching in a random address, correct?
That's what she says to me, yes.
Yeah, did you hear anything in there about Tammy or Jack Smith giving her an address?
I did not know.
Okay, so I heard it right, that she just punched in a random address to get her to San Antonio?
That's what she told me, yes.
All right. Now, the money. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. How she got the money. Okay? Now, she did tell you, and this is, again, 48 minutes, 15 seconds to 48 minutes, 35 seconds. So it's, again, it's going to start a little early.
To get all my affairs and things in order.
And where'd you get the cash to pay for those from?
My own savings and selling my 3 dogs and my laptop and jewelry and rent that I collected from my roommates.
And how much was that total?
It was about $2,000.
Okay. Now, the money for the trip. Money for the trip. Where did she get it? What was your understanding where she got it?
It was from rent money, the sale of 2 dogs, some jewelry, and I believe rent that her roommate at the time had given her for the monthly rent. She had $200 from him.
And this is the 40-plus-year-old man that she'd moved into Gabriel's room? That's who she got the rent from?
You know, I don't know how old he is, but I do recall that he had moved into the room that had been at Gabriel's.
Now, who did she not get the money from that's in this courtroom, besides myself and the attorneys and the jury and the judge?
I'm going on an assumption here, but she did not tell me that she got money from Jack or Tammi Smith.
Okay. So she didn't get any money for this grand scheme from Jack or Tammi Smith. None of it? Zip nada. Okay? I think we'd hear about that if you guys knew she had, right?
We have no information to indicate that she got any money from them.
Okay, that's good. I think we need to know that. Now, let's talk about were the Smiths helping her? And this is 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 32 seconds to, I think I got it backwards. 1 hour, let's just say 1 hour, well, let's hope I got it right. 1 hour, 48 minutes and 42 seconds to 1 hour, 49 minutes and 32 seconds. So here we go. We're a ways into this thing. And again, it'll probably start a little early because no, this one's not going to.
Here, did you have a cell phone?
No, I didn't have a cell phone. I only had a whole house number.
What's that?
I only had a house phone, and that's
Okay.
what I just always used because it was cheaper. I was trying to save money.
So you didn't go on the road at all with a cell phone or anything like that, driving through the desert or anything?
All right, I think I must have misnotated that one, so I take that back. Nashville address, okay? You remember talking about that?
I do.
Let's talk about that one. 2 hours, 37 minutes, hold on a second, give me a second. Nashville address, 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 19 seconds. Okay, this is going to be in the ballpark. Crap, come on. All right, I'm going to start this one early, so we'll hear a little bit.
Did you ever use your GPS to research Nashville?
I don't remember. I might have to maybe curious to see how far driving it was. Yeah, I think I did because Tammi was trying to get me to do that. And so I decided, and I saw how far it was, and I was like, oh, why am I driving that? Yeah, it was a long drive.
How did you punch in the coordinates for Nashville, like the area that you punched?
You just put Nashville, Tennessee, and then it says what street, and make up a street, and then a number, and then it takes you to Nashville City. I just remember it was a long time away, at the same distance, I guess, from Arizona to Texas, and that just seemed so long, and I didn't want to drive, especially in a potentially stolen vehicle.
So the street you just made up that street in Nashville, in that address. Okay. So the fact that FBI agents went to every single house on that street and interviewed every single person on that street, that's just because you typed in an address.
Yeah, I was curious to see if I did drive up there, how many miles it was.
Okay.
Now, she made up an address in Nashville.
Yes.
Okay, this was not this mysterious condo of Jack and Tammi Smith, right?
I have no information that she had that address or she punched that into the GPS.
Okay. Well, if she did, this was a random address, at least what she told you, right?
That's right.
Okay. And in fact, we probably kind of know this, but it has nothing to do with Jack and Tammi Smith because the FBI combed the area, right?
They did canvass that neighborhood, absolutely.
And as I remember, what were you? You're the co-case agent?
Yes, at this time I was.
Okay, co-case agent. So you'd know, had they found a smoking gun, something like that.
I would.
Doesn't exist.
They didn't find Gabriel.
Now, let's look at what Jack and Tammi Smith provided for Elizabeth, at least what she told you about. Let's look at 2 hours, 57 minutes, and 12 seconds through 2 hours, 57 minutes, and 41 seconds. All right, this is going to start slightly after I wanted to, but it's close. Okay.
Tammi and Jack provided to you.
Well, nothing to me. It was just all for the baby. They bought all stuff for the baby, I guess, organic food. They were telling me they were buying new outfits, and nothing for me. I was doing everything on my own. I mean, they offered me help, and they offered me, like, their lawyers and all that, but I didn't need any help from them, so.
Okay. I think that's important, too. Okay.
Your Honor, I would object to the commentary.
Sustained. Let's ask questions and not comment on answers, or basically have a dialogue going in. Ask the questions, get the answers, and move on. You're commenting on them way too much. Sustained.
Okay. Now, you heard what was said there, right?
I did.
Okay. You heard that she said that Jack and Tammi Smith did not provide any substance for her, right?
I heard that, yes.
Didn't pay her rent, correct?
I didn't hear her say that.
You didn't hear her say that she'd pay their gas bill?
I didn't hear that she had them pay any bills for her.
And buy a bus ticket to Florida?
No.
What they did offer help with was who? With what?
With an attorney and with clothing and food for Gabriel.
Maybe I missed it. Was there something illegal in there?
In the context of that portion right there?
Yeah, no. What did I miss it? Is it illegal to provide for someone's attorney?
No.
Is it illegal to help somebody with their child?
No.
Okay. Thought maybe I missed something.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay. Let's talk about Logan's apartment. You remember talking to her about what she did to Logan's apartment?
I do.
Basically, they shared an apartment and she tore it to pieces, and you talked to her about that.
Yes.
Okay, let's listen to that. And this is 3 hours, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 2 minutes and 35 seconds to 3 hours, 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Yeah, I'm starting it a little bit early.
I know, as you know, obviously we have a police report from September when you and Logan were living in the apartment. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yes, the child was in daycare at the time. There's records of that. I was just by myself, and I was upset. I'd been drinking. I was speaking to my brother. He had told me that Logan had cheated on me. And
Let me pause it right there. What did she just say she'd been doing?
She'd been drinking.
She'd been drinking. Okay, let's continue.
And so I got on the phone and called Logan and was fighting with him, and he was just making me more angry. Just by the way he is. He knows how to make me more angry, and when we're on the phone we fight worse because he knows he can kind of be nastier to me, and, just how people are on their phone. They talk more shit than they would normally face to face. And so I'm just angry, and I start just throwing things and breaking things. And the landlord was there and heard the window broke and called the police and arrested me. And I couldn't believe I was getting arrested for breaking my own window. I mean, I pay a fine or pay for the window. I couldn't believe getting arrested for it. So I was very, very upset.
Tone change there?
At what part?
Right there, we just heard. Tone a little different from what we played at the beginning on the state side.
In terms of...
What was her attitude there? That tone sound a little different?
It didn't seem much different than the other parts of the interview that I heard.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, let's talk about when people drink. You're a homicide detective?
I am.
Okay. How many homicides do you suppose you've investigated over the years?
Since I've started in the homicide unit, I would say I've been involved in approximately 125 homicide investigations.
That's a lot. Alcohol ever been involved in a homicide?
It has.
Alcohol been involved in a lot of homicides?
Could you define a lot?
Yeah. Your best guess. Does alcohol impair people's judgment?
It does.
Okay.
It can.
Now, were you a patrol officer before that?
I was.
Ever get called out to a bar fight?
I have been.
Okay. Ever get called out to a fight where there's drinking at a party?
Yes.
Okay. So you know that alcohol can bring out violent tendencies in certain people.
Yes, it can.
Okay. Now, let's look at, you remember talking to her about when she went down to Logan's work and caused the ruckus, accused him of kidnapping the baby and all that sort of stuff?
I do recall discussing that with her, yes.
Okay. And you've seen the police reports and all the things that go with that as co-agent, correct?
I had seen that, but that was several years ago, the last time I reviewed those reports in particular.
When you did this interview, you prepared to go into this interview.
I did.
And it was important to you to prepare to go in this interview because you knew there was a missing baby. Okay? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you made sure that you had all the facts at hand when you did this interview, correct?
I did my best.
And this was one of those things, correct?
It was something I'd answer, yes.
All right, let's look at, it's going to be 3 hours, 3 minutes and 55 seconds to 3 hours, 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Okay, this is close.
The time when when you had given the child to the Smiths, and then later that afternoon, you and Logan had a confrontation at his workplace.
Yes, I hadn't spoken to him in a few days because when I kicked him out, he didn't have a cell phone and I had no idea where he was or where to contact him. And still, I thought I should tell him what's going on. I'd asked him the day before, the day I kicked him out, I told him, what I was planning on doing, and he said, okay, that's fine, do whatever you want, I'll do whatever you want. So I did whatever I thought was best. I was alone. I had no word from him for a couple days, so I gave the child for adoption, and he called me that night, and he told me, I thought it was something important, and then he said, I'll call you on my break, and then he called me again and hung up, and I'm just like, what is he doing? So I'm just thinking something important's going on, so I was like, I need to tell him what's going on anyway, so I decided that he wants to talk to me, so I went down there to tell him that, the baby, I'd given the baby up for adoption, and let him know, because I had no way of contacting except for work, and since he had contacted me first, I didn't think there would be any problem with me going down there to let him know what's going on, and of course he wants to play games with me. As soon as I get down there, he just runs and hides, and I'm trying to tell him what's going on, and he doesn't want to hear it, he doesn't believe it, he doesn't want to talk to me about Gabriel, he just wants to be in denial and not hear it. And then I guess he decides to call the police on me for being there, and that's that.
Well, there's a little bit more to that than that, though, because at one point there was an entire investigation as to where Gabriel was at that point.
Yeah, no one would believe me.
Well, what did you tell people at first?
I wanted to open about this. This was a matter between me and him. I didn't want to have to tell other people first. I wanted to tell him first.
Well, now that you've got police there, police are involved, and they're sort of asking, okay, where's your child? Is your child safe? All these things, and you weren't telling them where your child was.
I wasn't telling them because I was pissed. I was also drinking. I was drunk, and I was very.
I will stop it right there. What was that? What had she been doing?
She stated that she had been drinking.
And she was also, what, drunk?
Yes.
Okay, let's continue on.
Very, very upset that I'm having to be, the police called on me, and I didn't want to talk to them. This was between me and Logan, and I was just pissed off and irrational, and just like, again, him playing his games. He'd set me up. He always sets me up. He's so clever to make me look bad and doing these things, and at that point I just didn't want to cooperate. But later in the evening I did say, where the baby was, and I cooperated with them and said the baby's safe, and they went over and verified, my story and everything.
And if you had said that at the beginning, then that incident wouldn't have blown up the way that it did, right?
I don't even know why they needed to be called there in the first place. I just needed to have a very serious, important conversation with someone who was hiding and didn't want to hear the conversation.
At that point,
and I thought that I had that right, but apparently I don't.
At that point, did you ever tell the police that Logan had kidnapped Gabriel?
No, I never did that. That was an incident. You can mix your dates up. That was an incident before when I first kicked him out. That's why I kicked him out. He did kidnap the baby.
Yeah. We learned something here, right? She's not telling you the truth about what happened, is she?
And I can't recall the specifics of that incident right now. I didn't review that report.
Well, let me say this. If Logan McQueary had come here, sat in that seat you're sitting in, and said that she'd accused him that night of kidnapping her child, or his child, and he had not, either he'd be lying or she'd be lying. Fair enough?
Okay.
Now, she told you a story about what she did with Gabriel, and that's kind of why you were here, right? You were there to find Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay. She told you she'd given Gabriel to a couple in Texas.
That's correct.
Okay, let's listen to that. Let's see, and this is going to be more towards the beginning of the interview. And just give me a second. This is 3 minutes and, excuse me. This is more towards the beginning of the interview. This is 23 minutes, 45 seconds through 27 minutes, 56 seconds. So it's a good chunk. Okay, this is close.
And you never had to get on the freeway?
No, and then right.
Am I correct in assuming that you drove to the park?
Yes.
Okay. When you drove it, how long would you say the drive was?
10 minutes, 15 minutes.
So little distance?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll go ahead and let you go, and then I'll come back. But just, I guess.
So you get a phone call from Tammi telling you to go where?
To a park that's close by to me. She gives me the nearest cross streets, and I guess she's already looked up the streets around me and saying which way to turn and to meet, what day to meet. I think it was the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday to meet.
Well, Saturday or Sunday, right? Is that what I just heard?
Yes.
Okay, let's continue to listen.
Morning or early afternoon. 1 o'clock, actually, I think, if I can remember correctly, 1 o'clock.
Okay, did I hear that correctly, that she was going to meet the couple at 1 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay.
To meet a couple in the park, and she gave me a brief description, and then they said they'll be expecting you, and they'll know your name, and they'll know Gabriel's name, and they'll have long car car seat.
And did she describe them to you?
Yeah, the same way that I've been describing them. I don't know if you guys have that information or not.
We have information
From the
that,
FBI.
from what you talked with the FBI agents. But I hope at some point to go over that information with you again. So they gave you these instructions to go to this park. You're saying it was about 1 p.m. on a Saturday or a Sunday that you drove to that park.
Yes.
And then what?
And then I park in the parking lot, and I get the baby, and I walk out and start looking around and walk around the walkway, the pavement area, and I immediately see a couple sitting down on a bench, and I approach them, and they say, Elizabeth, and I say, yeah, and then, they say, hi, we're Tammy's friends, and I say, okay, they asked how I'm doing, and I said, all right, and how's the babies, is everything okay with him? And I just kind of say goodbye to Gabriel and put him in the car seat for them.
Was that you taking notes of what she's saying? Okay, so you're writing down the information because you believe it's going to be important to help him find Gabriel, correct?
Yes, it's an aid for me to use when I go make that call on the phone.
Okay.
And after that, they I say, okay, bye, and they say, okay, the baby's going to be taken care of and everything, and I say, I know, and I walk away and I leave first and go back to the hotel, I think.
What did you do after you went to the hotel room?
I didn't do anything.
Now, I want to make sure that I heard that, because I think it was a little soft. Was that, what did you do after you went to the hotel room? Is that what you heard?
The female's voice I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear. If you can replay that.
Let me, why don't I do that? And it's going to be, again, difficult to get it exactly right, so we may have to start back a little further. Okay, here we go.
And I just kind of say goodbye to Gabriel and put him in the car seat for them. And after that, I say, okay, bye, and they say, okay, the baby's going to be taken care of and everything, and I say, I know, and I walk away and I leave first and go back to the hotel, I think.
What did you do after you went to the hotel room?
I think I'm close about asking her what she did when she went back to the hotel room?
Yes.
Okay, let's listen on.
I didn't do anything, I just stayed in the hotel.
Did you order dinner?
Yeah, I order takeout. Every day I was ordering takeout from the hotel. And then I have a phone book, and so I looked for a bus company and decided where I was going to go.
Okay, let me stop you there. So she went back to the hotel room. She ordered some dinner. I don't know, in my mind it's pizza. And she got a phone book to look for a bus company. Is that what I heard?
That's correct.
Okay, let's continue.
And called this company, and they said Sunday at 12 every day they go to Florida, and I said where, and they just said the places, and so I just picked a place like that. And was my plan.
Okay, now, did you hear her say that they said they leave Sunday at 12 for Florida? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So, she dropped the baby off at the park with a couple she doesn't know at about 1 o'clock. That's what she told you?
That's correct.
After she strapped Gabriel in to a car seat of the car of the couple she's never met, she went back to her hotel room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And she ordered some food. Is that correct?
Correct.
She looked to find out when the next bus is leaving to Florida. Is that correct? To look for a bus company.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you were taking down, I could hear you furiously taking down notes on that. We heard a little bit about a call that you made. And if you listen to all 4 hours of the tape, you will hear a break in the middle of the tape. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you went to go make that phone call that we're talking about.
During the first break.
Yes, during the first, yes, I'm not talking, I'll get to the second one. But the first break, you went and you made a phone call, and you got on the phone with the FBI, and you gave them that information that you were furiously writing down that we just reviewed, correct?
I don't know if I gave them all of it. Again, I didn't have much actionable information to report at that point.
You reported what you had.
Generally.
Okay. And that's what we just talked about.
I can't recall if this discussion that we're having right now was before the first break or after the first break. Okay. So during that phone call that I would have called my supervisors that were in contact with the FBI.
Okay. Somebody got the info, right? Somebody got your information.
Yes, somebody did get my information.
And it was important that people get your information, right?
It was important that they got the information that could help locate Gabriel.
Yes.
There are some other details that were neither here nor there as far as locating Gabriel at that time.
We're concerned with Gabriel.
Yes.
You got a possible plea agreement that she can tell us where Gabriel's at, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you have been trained, as I remember, you've been trained in a number of different ways in criminal investigation. One, through your training as a police officer, right?
Correct.
And you've been trained in other, forensics? You had a degree in forensics?
I don't have a degree, graduate certificate in...
That's what it was, a graduate certificate in forensic. It seems like I remember there's a bachelor's degree in there as well.
That's correct.
Okay. So you've got this graduate certificate in forensics. And you know how to investigate a case, and you know that, when you're getting information out of somebody, you really would like to corroborate that information, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you would really, truthfully, like somebody to tell the story the same way twice, correct?
Correct.
If they don't tell the story the same way twice, a little light goes off in your head, correct?
That is a possibility, yes.
Okay. Now, you talked to her again about what happened to Gabriel and about the couple in Texas, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And let's look at that. This is going to be 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 28 seconds to 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 56 seconds. All right, hold on just a second. Okay, right on this time. Here we go.
Do you recall the date that it was that you left San Antonio for Florida?
Sunday.
Okay. And when was the dates that you gave Gabriel to his family in the park?
I don't know the
Or
date.
when was the day? Like if Sunday was the day you left, when was the day you gave Gabriel to the family?
It was the same morning.
That morning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In relation to, so Sunday you actually left Phoenix.
No, Sunday she left San Antonio.
Oh, okay. So you're saying,
But I remember you sure it was Sunday? It was Sunday the 27th, the same day you looked to get on the bus.
Now, that voice we're hearing is her attorney, correct?
That's my belief, yes.
And didn't you need to get on the bus around noon? On Sunday?
Yeah, the bus was a noon bus, and it was an hour late at 1 it came.
So what day did you drop the baby off at the park?
Sunday.
Sunday?
So you, I guess recreating that morning, you left the hotel with Gabriel. Okay, and you're driving, and then you drove around to the park. Where did you go after that?
I went back to, I think, the hotel, I think, to pack up my things, pack up my things and then go to the bus station.
Okay, so let me just make sure I heard this right. It was in the morning at around 10 a.m. she dropped the baby off, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't the day before she left, it was the day that she left for Florida, correct?
That's what she says now, yes.
And she went back to the hotel not to order food, but to pack up her stuff. Is that what I heard?
Correct.
Okay, let's move on.
We're kind of at our breaking point for the afternoon. So why don't we
I'm good. I'm good. I always like a break.
All right. Well, you're going to get one. So we're going to take a break for about 15 minutes or so for our afternoon break. So we'll be back probably around 20 after 3. Until then, remember the admonition. We'll see you about 20 after 3. The record reflects the presence of the jury panel, Ms. Smith and counsel. Okay, welcome back. We left off with Mr. Lee cross-examining Detective Thompson, so that's where we'll pick back up. Mr. Lee, go ahead.
Okay, I am going to continue to play the audio that we've been listening to. I may actually extend it out a little bit past what I initially gave, but I'll let everybody know where we end.
When did you pack up from the hotel?
I don't remember, whatever clothes I wanted. Toiletries.
Okay. And then you left from there to the train station?
Yes.
What time did you meet the family in the park?
In the morning. I think I left the hotel at like 9.
Hold on, stop for a minute. I want you to take a deep breath and think about things.
That's her attorney that you hear right there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did she say, I want you to think for a minute, or I want you to take a deep breath and think for a minute? Did I hear that right?
I believe that's generally what she said, yes.
Okay.
Did you drop the baby off and then get on the bus?
Not right away. There was a couple hour period in between.
You didn't have a pizza delivered, you didn't have a drink?
No, that was the night before.
And Gabriel was there when you did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, let me just make sure I got this correct. It was the night before when she had the drink and the pizza. I don't know where the drink came from, but apparently there's some information out there. When she had the drink and the pizza and Gabriel was with her, right? That's what she said here?
That's correct.
Okay. And the last time she said that she dropped Gabriel off at 1 o'clock and went back to the hotel, had some pizza, and looked for a bus out of town.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you had done a couple things, and then you went to the bus after that? Okay. Did you stop anywhere else in between?
No, I got there early. I got there, I don't know, like 11 o'clock, and they were telling me that the bus was going to be late. It wasn't going to be there at 12. It was going to be there at 1 or 1:30. So then I decided to go just drive around quickly around the neighborhood and waste a couple hours.
What did you do then?
I think I went to Target and just looked around and just wasted some time.
Do you remember when you went to those stores, did you buy anything?
No,
the background?
Just the general sounds from within the 4th Avenue jail. Outside the doors of their room.
I'd slide it forward.
So now, just, I guess working backwards now. So now it's Saturday. It's the day before you left. Can you tell me what you did that day?
I don't think I did anything. I think I just stayed in all day that I can remember.
What I'm looking for here, like details, like you just mentioned pizza delivery, something like that. Something that we can get people to.
Well, I was always having delivery like every single day.
Okay.
I think I was called from the hotel phone.
Was there any particular place that was like a special place for you to eat at, or a place you liked, or you got food there from all the time?
They had two main places that advertised: a Chinese restaurant that I think 2 or 3 times I ordered from, and a pizza place that I ordered from a couple times.
Okay. Do you recall on what day you ordered from those restaurants?
Every day it was one or the other, or some other place, a sandwich place or something.
Would it be okay if we took a break for a second?
Who was that? Was that one of her attorneys?
Yes, it is.
And she's asking for what?
A break.
A break, okay.
And talk with her for a second?
Okay, they wanted to take a break to talk with her, is that right?
That's what she said, yes.
Okay. So, now the recording I got's in 2 parts. Is that how you met? You gave it to the county attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay. Big long recording?
Yes.
Okay. So, here you are. You've asked Elizabeth Johnson the first time at the beginning, I don't remember what it was, 20 minutes into it, about what she did with Gabriel. She gave you a story, right? 1 o'clock the day before, she left. She went home to think and order some pizza, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you knew before this that she had talked to her attorneys, and her attorneys said, let's set up a deal with the state, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she came and she told you that story. 3 odd hours into it, you ask her again, after you've taken a break, gone out, given the information that you have to either your superiors, the FBI, somebody in law enforcement, and come back, right?
Yes.
And you come back, and being the good investigator that you are, you want to corroborate the story and make sure that they match up, so you ask her again about what happens, correct?
I wanted to clarify the information.
And only this time, what did she do? She dropped Gabriel off, not on Saturday, but on Sunday, right?
That's what she said, yes.
Not at 1 o'clock, but at 10 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she went and drove around for a couple of hours after she'd just given her baby to people that she doesn't know, right?
That's what she described, yes.
She went to Target right after she'd just given her baby to strangers. Is that what she said?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, her attorney seemed concerned there, to say the least. Is that fair?
I don't know what was going on in the attorney's mind, but they they wanted to take a break and talk with it.
That was my next question. Whether they're concerned or not, they did take a break, right?
Yes.
And they had a privileged conversation with their client, correct?
I'm assuming so. I wasn't there.
You weren't there. I wasn't there. Was any law enforcement there?
No.
No. They in a room by themselves?
Yes.
Okay. And they talked to their client, right?
I'm assuming so, yes.
You can start the interview back up?
Yes, we do.
If I could just get you to turn off the audio for just 1 second, because there's nothing, I can't figure out a way to do it. It's going to pop on, and it's not going to be where I want it.
Okay.
And then I'll ask you to turn it back on. I apologize for that. I haven't been able to figure out a way to not get it to do that. Okay, if you could turn it back on, Your Honor, I would be in your debt.
It's back on. You're
Okay, and this is
in my debt.
what I'm calling, it's back on, Judge?
And you're in my debt.
I know that. You have cut me many a break. This is what I'm calling free talk number 2, for lack of knowing what else to call it. And this is at 3 minutes, 58 seconds. Okay. And again, I'm going to just get it in the ballpark. Okay, and after they came back, and after they talked to their client, they came back again and you talked about the park, correct?
Yes.
Let's listen to that. And I didn't notate to myself where I was going to turn it off, so I figured I must know. You know what? So I hopefully will let everybody know where I'm going to stop it.
Okay. And then you went back to the bus station? Okay. How long would you say you waited for the bus when you got back to the station?
45 minutes.
Did you talk with anyone else there at the bus station?
No, I think a couple of the employees talked to me, saying the bus was going to be there soon or something. I don't remember exactly.
Getting back to the park that you went to, and take a moment because this will be important. Okay, but take a moment and think with the park. Can you describe the park for me?
It's a medium to large park, like trees, playground, swing set, slides, basketball court, tennis. I'm not sure about tennis court. I just remember basketball court. Just, I guess, regular jogging paths.
Do you remember the name of the park?
No, I don't.
Let me ask you what your definition of medium to large is. Like in relation to, let's say, parks around here. Think of parks around in this area, because I know sometimes you spent some time in Scottsdale and some time in Tempe.
I'm trying to think of parks in Scottsdale. They're very different. The parks in Arizona, they're kind of just plain. They look very different than parks in
I'm going to stop it here. And just, because I'm boring myself, let me ask you this. Did you get any description that would give you the location of that park?
No, I did not.
And that rambling continues on, correct?
It does.
And there's no coherent, objective, easy to understand description of this park, correct?
That's correct.
Now, you talked to her about how she got to the park. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay, let's listen to that. And this is 6 minutes, 6 seconds through 7 minutes, 13 seconds. So here we go. And again, this is going to be just close. Okay, it's a little bit past.
And you from here's your hotel there, and you come around the frontage road, and then go around. Did you make the first right?
Let me just clarify so everybody understands. Right now, you're asking her and kind of describing about how to get to the park, correct? Because you've got information about the hotel. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay.
Like you go to the next major intersection?
Yes, the next major, but not the next.
And then you continue all the way down. You said 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah. But I think I turned left just down to like another intersection, main street.
Okay, so at one point you started heading this way again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many zigzags did you make in order to get to the park?
Quite a few, I guess.
Did you put that into your GPS?
No.
How did
Let me just stop you there. What did I hear? Did I hear there was quite a few zigzags? Correct?
Yes.
She had a GPS with her, right?
Yes.
And she did not program in to the GPS the park in a city that she was unfamiliar with. Is that what she said?
That's what she told me, yes.
Okay. Let's continue on.
How did you get to that park then?
They had told me the intersections, Tammy did, and what my intersections were, what they're close to, and I figured it out from there.
Did you write it down anywhere?
I might have. I don't remember. I think I did.
Now, let's see what she's saying here, because I recall something on direct about Tammy giving her directions. Let's listen to what she said, okay? Did I hear it correctly that there's a lot of turns to get to this park, correct?
That's what she said, yes.
Okay. She did not plug it into her GPS, is that correct?
That's correct.
She was just given the intersection, is that correct?
That's correct.
It was 10 to 15 minutes away, is that correct?
Correct.
She's in a foreign city to her, is that correct?
To my understanding, yes.
And she just figured out how to get there by herself, correct?
Correct.
And she's not sure whether she wrote it down or not.
Correct.
I know that's a mouthful, but we had to go through it. All right, text messages. You talked to her about the disturbing text messages, and I know everybody's tired of it, but let's go through it again. It is, text messages are on what I'm calling free talk number 2, 40 minutes, 55 seconds to 42 minutes, 32 seconds. Okay, oops. Okay, this is close.
In another conversation, did you say something about putting him in a diaper bag or a paper bag?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall mentioning something about putting his body out by a dumpster?
Yeah, I told her that.
Okay. Do you recall telling him that you wanted that as soon as you're out of the country, then you'll tell him where his body is?
Yeah, I was saying that.
Okay. Obviously, another thing that was a concern to us is looking through some of your writings.
I'm going to stop it there. We'll pick it up right after that. So, it's not particularly rosy when you hear her say it, correct?
When I hear her say...
Talk about the text messages that she sent about killing Gabriel.
Correct.
It's difficult to listen to, isn't it?
It always is, especially when you're dealing with an infant, of course.
Okay. Now, she had some concerning journal entries, and do you have your report in front of you?
I do.
Just if you want to reference it, I have it as bait stamp. Do you have the bait stamp copy?
I don't.
No, never mind then.
Is there a page
If I can
number at the
grab
bottom?
my own file, I can tell you where it's at. Okay.
And Mr. Lee may proceed. Go ahead.
It's 2136, I believe, in your report, in one of your supplements. Let's give it a minute to find it. You've got it? Okay. All right, they're going to play immediately, and then we'll talk about it. And it kind of continues on, but it's 4232 through 4355, again on Free Talk number 2.
That you left behind either in journals or in the car or in the room, something like that.
And just to note, we have not reviewed those. We don't have copies of journals or anything else.
Okay, and I don't have the copies of them either. I viewed them in person a couple days ago in San Antonio, but they're still with San Antonio FBI. So, one of the notes, it says, "Stay away from broken people. We will hurt you. It's all we know." There's another that says, I hurt everybody, I'm sick of it, I will never stop, I'm toxic, I'm sorry. And there's another note that says, you live what you know what you live. And then there's another note that says, I believe it says, the devil's got me, let me go. And do you recall writing those?
Yeah, I was drinking.
Thought I heard my voice. All right, let me just play that one more time.
And there's another note that says, you live what you know what you live. And then there's another note that says, I believe it says, the devil's got me, let me go. And do you recall writing those?
Yeah, I was drinking.
Okay.
And just feeling like I was a piece of shit.
Do you recall when you wrote those?
Throughout the week, I would get upset and feel like I'm just a mess up and like I can't do anything right and I keep messing up my life instead of being responsible, and I just feel like such a loser, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. There's two things. Maybe I missed it, but what was she doing again? Was she drinking?
She was.
And she wrote those journal entries throughout this week we've been talking about where she's in San Antonio. That's what she says?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay. So presumably she'd been drinking throughout this week that she's alone in San Antonio with Gabriel.
At least at one moment during that week. It sounds like it, yes.
At least while she wrote those entries.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you remember talking to her about some things that concerned you about what she told you?
I do.
Okay, let's listen to that. That is, again, free talk number 2, 56 minutes, 14 seconds through 59 minutes, 13 seconds. Okay, it's close.
To be honest, Elizabeth, there's still a lot that concerns me about what you're telling me. There have been a number of things that are inconsistent. And I'm sitting here, all I can do is ask you to tell me the truth, okay? In regard to you and Logan talking to each other, that's one thing. We've got, obviously, cell records. Okay. You called Logan 81 times on the 26th and the morning of the 27th.
Yeah, that was the day with the text messages.
81 times, though. I had asked, and it's not the day with the text messages, because those are only like 3 or 4.
And I don't believe that at all. There's no way I called him 81 times.
Well, we've even got the cell towers that
Virtually impossible. When
they
did
were
I
off
do
of.
that?
So,
26th? Christmas Day?
and I can get you all the records.
The day after Christmas? There's no way I called him.
Well, we've
I
got
don't remember calling him once, let alone 81 times.
Okay, and we can supply those as well. We can supply the cell tower information as to which tower.
Did he pick up the phone? I mean, how is 81 times possible? I didn't. If anything, maybe it was the phone hitting something. I don't know.
Well, not when there are multiple conversations like that. So that's one thing that just.
I don't recall that at all.
Okay, and that's one thing that just doesn't make sense to me. You're saying you never tried to call Logan, he never tried to call you. There was a mix-up at one point about the dates in the park, and I know we had sort of resolved that a little bit, and you had a chance to talk and everything, and that there had been a mix-up, but you had talked about, that it might have been earlier in the week that you had met this couple at the park. Did you ever have the couple come back to the motel at all? Okay. Did you ever meet the couple at the park one day and then have a couple of days of getting to know them, and then they pick up Gabriel on the last day?
No.
Why would you say that to other authorities?
Yeah, that was my story then before I changed it.
I guess, why am I to believe you now? I mean, I know we're sitting here in this situation, but we've already got you.
I don't want to rag on Tammi. I mean, was the plan. I wasn't planning on getting caught. I had to say something, so I made up a story.
She actually gave us that exact same story. Like, I knew what she said prior to reading your FBI report, which matches. It's in my notes. Only after, as of last night, did she disclose this.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot in there. I'll call this, to me it's story number 4, but we can call it story number 3, whatever you want. And she came back and told you another story after she went and talked to her attorneys the first time, correct?
That's correct.
Apparently you confronted her about a story that she told the FBI that was completely different from either of these 2 stories that we've heard here today.
Yes, I did.
Now, you talked about it was the plan. It was a plan that she had with Tammi. That's why she wasn't going to do this, right? I'm correct?
I talked about that?
See, maybe it's been a long day. Maybe I missed it. But you heard her talk about that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's your understanding that the first time that she even came close to this story that the state presented today on direct was after she talked with her attorneys, correct?
What part of her story?
Let's listen to it again. I'm just going to be brief, Your Honor.
Resolved that a little bit. You had a chance to talk and everything, and that there had been a mix-up, but you had talked to...
You're talking about when she went to talk to her attorneys, that there had been some kind of mix-up, and they came back and resolved it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, here we go.
About, that it might have been earlier in the week that you had met this couple at the park. Did you ever have the couple come back to the motel at all?
No.
Okay. Did you ever meet the couple at the park one day and then have a couple of days of getting to know them, and then they pick up Gabriel on the last day?
No.
Why would you say that to other authorities?
Yeah, that was my story then before I changed it.
I guess, why am I to believe you now? I mean, I know we're sitting here in this situation, but we've already got you.
I want to rat on Tammi. I mean, it was the plan. I wasn't planning on getting caught. I had to say something, so I made up a story.
She actually gave us that exact same story. Like, I knew what she said prior to reading your FBI report, which matches. It's in my notes. Only after, as of last night, did she disclose this.
Okay.
So it's your understanding that only after she talked to her attorneys did she come up with this story, correct?
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Okay. And her attorneys went out and they got her a deal, correct? They tried to get her a deal.
They tried to get her a deal, yes. There's no deal.
And they came to the state with that proposition, and the state wanted to find the baby, so they drew up a plea agreement with that deal, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. And that's when you got the story that we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
The problem is, you got 2 completely distinct stories in the same interview, correct?
There were some discrepancies, absolutely.
There's some large discrepancies, correct?
There are.
And you were concerned with those large discrepancies, correct?
I am.
And you confronted her with those discrepancies, correct?
I did.
Not only that discrepancy, you confronted her with another story she told the FBI that was completely different than these 2. Correct?
I did mention that, yes.
Okay. Now, what do we know from all these different stories about Elizabeth Johnson? There's a word for it. Well, are they all true?
There's no way they can't be.
No, they're right. They can't all be true. So we're left with at least 2. Let's say we're left with probably 3 are false and maybe 1 is true. Or they're all false, correct?
Some of the information I didn't know, if some of it was the truth or some of it was false. But there were a number of discrepancies.
Let's roll it back. We're left with a couple of possibilities. not that it's all true. It's either it's all false or only one story is true, correct? That's what we're left with.
And I guess I'm looking at it from a standpoint of there may be portions of stories that are correct, portions of stories that are false. So,
all right, fair enough. There could be lies throughout all of her stories, correct?
it's possible.
And we know about Elizabeth Johnson. What? We know she's a liar, correct?
We know there were times that she was not telling me the story that she had told someone else.
She lied to you.
I don't know if the story she was telling me was a lie or the truth, so I can't answer that. But it was different from stories that she had told other investigators.
Okay. And the two stories she told you can't both be true, right?
That's correct.
So, there's at least one lie, probably multiple, in at least one of her stories.
Absolutely, that is possible.
She told those stories to you.
Yes, she did.
And those stories were lies.
At least one of them.
She lied to you.
Yes.
Now, there are other concerning things about Elizabeth Johnson in this case, correct?
Refresh my memory if you could.
Let's talk about the knife.
Okay.
And I am going to you know what? Let's talk about her grandfather's car first. You talked to her about how she left, the condition she left the car in, correct? Her
I
grandfather's
did.
car. And her grandfather's car was left abandoned in a hotel room, or in a big hotels, in the parking lot of a hotel with the keys in the ignition, correct?
Yes.
You asked her about that. Let's listen to that. And again, Your Honor, I have to switch. Yeah, if you could, it'll pop up.
Go ahead.
Okay, again, we're back to Elizabeth Johnson, Free Talk 1. We're looking at 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 8 seconds. All right, it's a little past, but it's close.
When you were driving, can you tell me what route you took?
Main highway.
Mm-hmm. Just how you got there.
I was on the same highway the whole time. I went straight from, I guess, Arizona to San Antonio. I'm guessing it's 95 South or I-10. Maybe it changes or it's the same name. It was the I-10 South.
So you just stayed on the same highway there?
Yeah, I was very close.
Okay. When you got to San Antonio, what made you choose the hotel you chose?
I was looking for something with weekly rates, and most of the ones around.
You know what? I apologize. I had it at 1 hour. You can all hit me when I leave, and I won't charge. 2:45 and 8 seconds. It's been a long day, and I deserve whatever rebuke I get.
It sounds like an invitation.
And I need it, believe me. It might wake me up a little bit. All right, 2:45 and 7 seconds. We're close.
There was your grandpa's car, or your grandfather's car.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how you left his car?
I just left it at the hotel next to the bus station with the key still in the ignition. The door's unlocked, and that's it. Just left it there. So whatever happened to it.
I guess my question, of course, the police officer in me is asking us, why would you leave it in that condition?
hoping it would be stolen because I don't know. I knew my grandfather had insurance on the car, so he would get reimbursed for it. I don't know. I was worried about. I don't know. Just like it would get stolen or taken away, so maybe it wouldn't be close to the place, where they could track me, the bus company.
Okay. Now, I know that's not exciting, but let's talk about it. She took her car, her grandfather's car, and she left it at a hotel in the parking lot, correct?
Yes.
Or a motel, I don't know, I haven't seen it. But a place where people spend the night, all right? And she left it with the keys in there, correct?
Yes.
She did it specifically because she wanted someone to steal her grandfather's car.
That's correct. That's what she said.
And because she didn't want people to be able to track her where she was going.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you asked her about the cleanliness of the car, and it looked like it had just been through a car wash. You remember that?
I do remember asking her about the cleanliness of the car, yes.
All right, and this is 2 hours, 46 minutes, 20 seconds, or 2 hours, 47 minutes.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, 2 hours, free talk number 1, 2 hours, 46 minutes and 20 seconds through 2 hours, 47 minutes and 42 seconds. Okay. And now I've forgotten it already. Okay, it's close.
At any point during the week, did you do anything to the car to clean it out at all, anything like that?
No.
Did you wash the car at all?
No.
Didn't take it to the car wash or anything like that? So I think what that is the outside of the car has remnants from a car wash. If you go through a car wash or something like that, it's got little wax buildup and little stuff like that.
My grandfather does that to all his cars. He cleans them and waxes them, and he takes a lot of pride in his cars.
Well, but this is like that. You go in one of those automated washes that's got that foam, that wax foam stuff.
Something that a person could use with their own supplies. So I never took it there, and I know how my grandfather was cleaning his cars.
Well, we're just looking at. We're looking at the consistency of that, and looking at the condition of the car itself, and it just didn't. To me, it didn't look like the car had gone through 1,300 miles of driving on the highway or anything like that. And with the wax on the bottom and stuff like that, which is fine. I was just wondering. Again, I'm just trying to put the pieces together. If you did go to a car wash, that's fine. But I'm just trying to put everything together as to what what we see and what's there.
Okay. Now, it looked to you like the car had been cleaned.
I won't say that it looked like the car was clean. I don't recall that, but it didn't look like it had driven 1,300 miles on the highway driving.
It looked like it had been through a car wash.
There was indication that it had been through a car wash, yes.
Okay. Now, Elizabeth, and we've seen it, but Elizabeth had a knife with her when she was arrested in Florida, and you asked her about that.
I did.
Okay, let's do that. And this is, again, free talk, number 1, and I'll go slow. 3 hours, 9 minutes through 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 27 seconds. Okay, this is a little early.
Just because I pick him out doesn't mean he disappear and hide from being a father and not, calling to check in to see how me and the baby are doing. Which there was no contact whatsoever from him until that night that he called me from his work. And so I decided it's time for us to talk about Gabriel, since he has not yet tried to talk about Gabriel with me before this time. So I go over there, and that's when he decides to play games.
What was the date of that report you have?
I know there's a criminal damage report from September 9th, and I can get you that. I know we mentioned a couple times Craigslist and stuff like that. When you left Tempe, did sorry, after you left.
All right, again, my notes are bad. She told you that she had a knife with her, correct?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And you asked her and she confirmed it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I don't have this exactly, or I'm going to need some gloves. You talked about the knife in one of your police reports, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You wrote quite a bit in this case. Fair?
I'm sorry.
You did a lot of work in this case.
I did.
Okay. And you were called in because of your expertise in this area, correct?
Yes,
Okay. You're a homicide detective.
that's correct.
Okay. And we know from lots and lots and lots of testimony that there were confessions to killing baby Gabriel in text messages from Elizabeth Johnson, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Remember what the knife looked like?
I do.
And may I approach the witness? You may. And this is what's going to eventually be marked as Exhibit 198. If you recall, we have to strap it down. Very cool. I'm going to take it out of the box. Is that the knife?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, what kind of knife would you call that?
I believe I refer to that as a, yes. Refer to that as a fillet knife.
Fillet knife.
Yes.
And, you know, the redneck in me says this is also probably a redneck knife. That'd be a fair assessment. Somebody goes hunting, outdoorsman type of thing.
I have no idea what a reference to a redneck knife would be, but
Well,
I refer to it as a fillet knife.
The country boy in me would call it, I saw it called a country knife. I thought I'd take a shot at myself, but it's a fillet knife. It's got a leather sheath.
Yes.
And where it can be worn around the belt.
Yes.
Correct? Somebody might take this into the woods with them.
And that's one possibility,
They
absolutely.
might want to fillet something with this. Did you ever go hunting?
A long time ago.
Okay. You might want to skin an animal, gut an animal, something like this.
Don't know if that would be the type of knife for that.
Tell me approximately how long you think that blade is.
Approximately 7 inches, maybe.
What I want you to do is set that down and look at, put the knife down if you could. And I want you to examine this area close to the handle. What do you see there?
I see some debris.
What else do you see?
I see debris.
Okay. You see reddish-brown debris.
I see brownish debris.
Okay. And it's right up here next to this, correct? Next to the handle.
Next to the portion of the hilt, yes.
Okay. You know, I'd like to just show this. I'm going to probably want to put it on the overhead projector. If you don't mind, I'd like to kind of walk it past the jury if that's possible, because I think it's hard to see otherwise.
You can walk it past him, stay on your side of the bar.
Okay. I'd like anybody who'd like to come up, please do. Because you need to get close to see it. Anybody in the back row like to view it? Okay. Now, forensics. That's kind of your area, right?
That is where I've worked for several years, yes.
Judge, I'd like to just see what we can do about getting this on the overhead.
Okay, hang on for a minute. Hang on, switching it over.
Now, I can zoom in the best I can to this. You can get it closer. Now, as we see here, and I guess you can take a closer look, it comes out slightly differently when you look at it in real life, but we can see here, we see something that looks like it's run down from where the handle is, correct?
What portion of this image are you looking at?
Close to it. Here.
Yes.
Okay? And we see splotching up in here.
There are spots.
Okay? And this is a reddish brown spot at the top of this knife, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I've looked through the police reports, and if you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see that this was ever tested with luminol.
No, it was not.
Okay. What is luminol?
Luminol is a chemical reagent that reacts to a number of things, but one of those items are some of the substances, some of the, what I believe, proteins within blood.
Reacts to some of the proteins within blood, and it helps us find blood that we might not normally be able to see, correct?
That's correct.
And it also helps us determine on items that we're not sure if that reddish brown substance is blood or not. It helps us determine if it's blood, correct?
It's not a conclusive test. It gives us an indication, but it also reacts to a number of other items besides blood as well.
Point us in the right direction, correct?
It could assist in discounting something as not being blood.
And it's used quite often in forensic, correct? Or
I guess every agency is different. It's not all that often that we use luminol, just because it's degrading to DNA typing later on.
Exactly. You knew where I was going. Now, we could use luminol up front, but we might not want to, right?
Correct.
The other thing that we might want to do on a substance that we don't know what it is we might want to swab it. And can you just describe what those swabs look like that they use to collect DNA?
Big Q-tip.
Like a big Q-tip. And somebody, when they're examining something, an item that they think there might be DNA on, what might they put on?
Gloves.
And why would we put gloves on?
So that, well, I guess it's twofold. So that any biohazard that might be on an item doesn't come off on the person handling it, and so that the person handling it doesn't introduce anything from themselves to that item.
Okay. Now, I don't remember seeing anywhere that this knife was swabbed.
And that's correct, it was not.
Okay. It could have been, correct?
It was in our possession, correct.
Yeah, and now I know it takes DPS. Do you have your own lab or does DPS do it?
DPS handles our DNA.
Okay. So I know DPS is notoriously slow, but I think they'd probably be done in 3 years, correct?
Correct.
So we could have taken this knife, we could have looked at this substance, swabbed it, and gotten it down to the DPS lab, right?
Right.
And we could have results on that DNA, if there was DNA there, correct?
Correct.
And if we got a DNA profile, we can use this into determining some issues in this case, correct?
It would be a factor that we'd have to consider.
Let's say I got a DNA profile that led me to believe that this person on the knife, not the DNA on there, was a son or daughter of Elizabeth Johnson. Would that be helpful?
It would be considerable information, yes.
Okay. Let's say we had, I don't know that we do, but let's say that we had a source of DNA from Gabriel Johnson. And we could compare any DNA we got off this knife with Gabriel Johnson's DNA, correct?
Correct.
And we'd know if his DNA was there. Correct?
Correct.
And we could test it to find out if that substance was blood, correct?
I believe you'd be able to test it to determine that there is a DNA link between the substance on the knife and the exemplar sample from Gabriel.
And what that would tell us, particularly in this case, is that the story about Elizabeth Johnson, at least it would highly suggest, giving her child away to someone in the park is completely false. That would suggest that to us, wouldn't it?
That would be one thing that could possibly suggest that story is false, yes.
And it would also suggest to us that everything she said about that and about Tammi Smith was an absolute, complete lie to cover herself.
It wouldn't suggest that, no.
Oh, we would know that people in the park is unlikely had that, correct? We would know that baby Gabriel's probably not safe, correct?
It would be a concern, yes.
And we would know that baby Gabriel was not given away to somebody in the park.
It would be something for us to consider.
And it would certainly suggest that Elizabeth Johnson's, every single one of them, every single one of her stories is false except one, correct?
It wouldn't suggest that everything that Elizabeth told us was false. But if there was evidence on that knife, that would have to be considered strongly in terms of her telling us whether Gabriel was alive or dead.
Okay. But it would highly suggest that she killed her little boy, put him in a bag, put him in the trash. Is that correct?
That would be a possibility we have to consider, of course.
Now, I know what I'd ask and redirect, so I'm going to ask this now. You talked about Texas authorities looked in various dumps, for lack of a better word, correct?
I believe they did a search of a landfill, yes.
And they didn't find Gabriel, correct?
No.
Have we found Jesse Shockley in the dump yet?
Objection to relevance, Your Honor.
Stand.
Many times, bodies in landfills, especially little bodies in landfills, can go unnoticed even after the best search.
Your Honor, is that a question?
Yes, it's a question. Isn't that true?
There is a possibility.
Now, this is not a rosy story, is it?
It's not.
And we heard the first 10 minutes of your free talk, correct?
Yes.
And we heard the end of the free talk, correct?
Yes.
There was a completely different tone in Elizabeth Johnson from the beginning to the end, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
And you had confronted her with the possibility that she killed her child.
Yes, I did.
Judge, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Let's take a minute so you can clean up.
I don't know what we want to do about securing.
Let's put it back where you got it. So
Okay.
put it back there. Put it back in the box. Bring the box over. Clean up the gloves.
I know we've got some zip ties. Maybe we'll just enter it in afterwards.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Ms. Romano, you may proceed.
Thank you. Detective, the last question you were asked was whether you considered the possibility that Elizabeth Johnson had killed her child, correct?
Yes.
And that was actually a possibility all along,
Absolutely.
based on her texts to Logan McQueary,
Yes.
and based on the fact that we couldn't find the baby.
Correct.
And in fact, you asked her that during that interview, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
But the interview was cut off at that point.
It was.
And the recording that is actually admitted into evidence doesn't contain that question, correct?
No, it does
All
not.
right. Your recorder cut off.
The battery died.
All right. The battery died. But in addition, her attorneys objected or
That's correct.
to you asking her that question.
Yes, they did.
All right. Now, you were asked by defense counsel several times, actually, about the difference in her tone throughout this interview.
Yes, I was.
Tell us about the difference in her tone and at what points of the interview.
What I recall, what gave me attention to her interview is at the beginning of this interview, as I'm talking with Elizabeth, for the first hour, a couple hours of this interview, She is recalling things without any hesitation. She's able to answer questions with a suitable answer, or at least what I felt was a suitable answer upon me asking her questions. And there seemed to be interaction between us. There weren't the ums and ahs. There wasn't the lag in thinking about the answer before she gives it, anything like that. I could just hear that the tone of her voice was different. And that was the first, probably about an hour and a half, couple hours of that interview. Then, towards the end of the interview, her tone changed.
And what was happening towards the end of the interview?
Towards the end of the interview, that's when I was confronting Elizabeth. I was starting to confront her with some of the inconsistencies that she had told me, specifically about the description of the park and the description of the couple that were in the park. Those were things that I noted that throughout most of the interview, she was able to give a fair amount of detail of everything that she is saying occurred. Then all of a sudden you get to the description of a park and you get to the description of these people. And I recall that her answers turned into just one-word answers or multiple-word answers. They were equivocal. It was a large to medium park. I had to then go into further questions to ask her specifics about things like that. Those were things that I noted towards the end of that interview.
And those are things that we use in normal everyday life to judge a person's statements to us, correct?
Absolutely.
As well as you being a detective and an investigator.
Yes.
When someone's talking to you, you're looking at the detail they give, the consistency of what they've told you, correct?
That is correct.
In determining whether or not you find it to be credible information.
That is correct.
Right. Now, clearly you had concerns, and you told us that on direct. She was inconsistent. When I first questioned you, you testified that she was inconsistent about this story about the couple in the park.
That's correct.
And that you confronted her about it.
That's right.
And we heard a little bit more on cross-examination.
Yes.
All right, so you're not alleging that her story was consistent, correct?
No.
In fact, it was a concern that day, and it's a concern now.
Unfortunately, it is, yes.
Part of being an investigator is also corroborating information that people give to you. And defense counsel asked you that quite a few times, correct?
Yes.
Right. Part of corroboration is whether they can tell the same version of events more than one time.
That's correct.
Clearly, if somebody can't keep their story straight on more than one occasion, that raises a big red flag, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's what raised a flag in this case.
Yes.
But you did take additional steps to try to corroborate her version of events, correct?
Yes, I did.
The Texas police went out and searched those parks?
That's correct.
I'm assuming that there was some type of call-out or broadcast of looking for a couple with a baby that age?
Yes.
Okay, and in fact, there were tips that were called in of couples, women, men seen with children around that age.
Yes.
And those were all followed up on, correct?
To my understanding, yes, they were.
And that was never able to be corroborated.
No, it was not.
Likewise, the possibility of this child being dead has never been able to be corroborated, correct?
That's correct.
There's no body.
No, there's not.
All right, now there's a lot of talk about the knife.
Yes.
If there's blood on a knife, that doesn't necessarily mean that was used to kill somebody, correct?
That's correct.
But it could be.
It could.
Now, Detective, people lie to you all the time, right?
Unfortunately, they do, yes.
However, I believe you testified about this on cross-examination that while people may lie, sometimes parts of their story are true and parts of their story are not, correct?
That's correct.
Right, and that's why you do things to corroborate what they've told you.
Yes.
Now, with regard to some of what Elizabeth Johnson told you, there is corroboration to some of the things she did tell you.
Absolutely.
For example, the MySpace emails between her and Tammi Smith. Those corroborate some of the things she said in that interview. Isn't that correct?
Yes, they do.
Her phone records, do they corroborate some of the things she said in that interview?
Yes.
Her text messages?
Yes.
So not every single thing she told you during that interview is a lie.
That's correct.
Some maybe,
Possibly, yes.
but not everything.
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Before we let Detective Thompson go, does the jury have any questions for him? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused, Ms. Romuno?
Thank you. Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee?
Yes, Judge.
You may step down. Thank you. Okay, we're just about at 4:30. I don't think we're going to start another witness right at the end of the day, so we're going to take our break for the evening. That means we'll come back tomorrow, hopefully around 10:30. Until then, remember the admonition, and we'll see you tomorrow about 10:30. Have a good evening.
All rise.
Okay, please be seated, everyone. Detective, you can step down. You don't have to stay up there. I want to make a brief record regarding an objection that the state made during cross-examination and explain why I overruled the objection. And it also goes to the, I think, extent to which we were talking about Elizabeth Johnson's free talk, where I think there was an objection, or at least a concern from the state about using a portion of, or referring to a portion of Elizabeth Johnson's journal. That's why we approached. And the journal's not in evidence. I permitted the defense to get into what the journal said because it was referenced in the free talk, because Elizabeth Johnson acknowledged it in the free talk. And I also wanted to make it clear that and as I said when the attorneys were here, I was going to give the defense and continue to give the defense leeway to essentially attack the credibility of Elizabeth Johnson, because while the state has not alleged that everything Elizabeth Johnson has said about Tammi Smith is true, they're not asking the jury to find that Tammi Smith directed or assisted Elizabeth Johnson in bringing the baby to a park in San Antonio. The fact is the state is relying on Elizabeth Johnson to some degree with respect to the allegations against Ms. Smith. And because they are relying on, at least in part, Ms. Johnson's statements, then the defense is entitled to attack her credibility down the line with what she said relating to this case. So to me, the door was open, and I'm going to let the defense get into what she said, as long as we're talking about this investigation, baby Gabriel, the interaction with Ms. Smith. So that's why I let the door stay open, and that's why I told the state that I was going to let the defense ask pretty much any question they could think of relating to that free talk, because it went to their right to attack the credibility of Ms. Johnson. So I wanted to make that clear. I don't know if anybody else wants to make any kind of record. Ms. Andrews?
Your Honor, I appreciate that lengthy record, but actually we didn't object. We just asked to approach to discuss the relevance of it, and when Mr. Lee pointed out it was a discussion in the free talk, we agree. So we don't have an objection, but if we did, we withdraw.
Okay. Well, you expressed a concern, and that's why you were here, why you were up here, and I wanted to make it clear, because I did, and I will tell you, as I sit here, I have a concern about how far we're getting into the Elizabeth Johnson statement that we may not have contemplated would come in at all when the trial started, and suddenly we're playing it. And I didn't contemplate at the beginning of the trial we'd be getting into it, but I think the door got open to allow the defense to explore it. So I allowed them to explore it. All right. Anything else we need to talk about?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so we have, I think, only Detective Ramirez remaining, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you expect that to essentially take up the day tomorrow?
Yes, and into Monday as well.
Okay.
Judge, if I could get one of the officers here to zip tie that exhibit into the box. There was some concern that they wouldn't be allowed to be taken. Am I saying it right? Won't be allowed to be taken back if they don't, or what was the concern?
I've got the zip ties, but it's got to be secured by an officer.
It's got to be secured by an officer?
It should be secured by an officer.
Okay, so what it's the court rules, what we require evidence-wise, it's got to be secured by an officer. So if we can secure it, what typically is the way we would secure it? Because we may Do we possibly need to get back into it?
I don't know if the state does. I just ask that once it's zip tied down, that we move it into evidence.
Okay. Is there?
They can't go to the jury the way it is right now because they did bring a box. I do have the zip ties, but it has to be secured in the box.
Okay. And the concern is when it goes back to the jury.
Yes.
It has to be secured basically within the box, so it can't come out. So here's what we'll do. I'm not really worried about this moment working to secure it.
Okay.
I think it's very clear that you would like it as to be marked as an exhibit, to be entered into evidence. I think you're going to be entitled to that.
Okay.
We just need to secure it. So we will work toward getting it secured. What I'll probably do at some point, ask to have either Detective Ramirez or her designee secure it, so we can get it secured, get a exhibit tag on it, and get it entered into evidence. But I'm sure we can get that done in the next few days.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Anything else?
Your Honor, for chain of custody purposes, because this isn't the only trial, Detective Thompson would be happy to secure it while he's here.
That would be great. If you could do it, and if you want to do it now, that's fine. You can do it. I appreciate that. All right. I'll see everybody tomorrow at 10:30.